All right, we're starting this at... God damn it, Chris. Fucking A. We're starting this episode. I'm going to tell you, I've done the research. DQ, BK, McDonald's, Wawa. Best milkshake you're going to get.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
Oh, we didn't do
No, I didn't do Chick-fil-A. I was going to say McDanks. It's got melts. It melts the slowest. Very drinkable texture. Followed up by Wawa, although they're pretty small. Flavor and size, DQ. They're the only one that gives you a big bad size now, but it melts. I bought 3 last night, and by the time I got to the third, it was liquid.
Can we talk about how you bought 3 milkshakes for yourself?
I would like to point out that he's upset because after the first 2 milkshakes, the third one had melted.
Yeah, it's not.
As if that's a normal thing to go out.
That sounds like a pretty extreme metric there, bud.
Yeah,
dude, I needed it. You can't just test off of one sample. I get 1 chocolate and 2 vanillas of the biggest size.
Why 2 vanillas?
Because
if you or someone you know is affected by milkshake abuse, please call.
You gotta get the chocolate because you gotta see what kind of flavor they put in. Then you get the vanilla, and then you're like, this vanilla's good. I want another. That's why I do that.
Okay.
Were there any boys in your yard?
What?
Were there any boys in your yard?
No, but there was gas.
Shit milkshakes.
Oh, yeah, I was
Shit
gonna say, dude,
milkshakes.
That would give me the worst shits if I had that much.
Yeah, it just... I don't know.
I got a Chick-fil-A milkshake yesterday, and it was goddamn delicious.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll table my review, but I still think if you're looking for a biggin, you go DQ. If you're looking for a all-around performer, McDonald's. And I think it's really just like reconstituted plastic, but whatever it is, it's tasty. Welcome to another installment of your #1 academic informational podcast, Two Guns, No Ammunition. We're going to get started with our roundtable introduction here. I'm Big Billy, and I've been putting on weight. I wonder why.
And I'm Chris, and since we're academic today, I expect you all to put doctor in front of my name.
Dr. Chris.
You don't have a...
Dr. Kevorkian, please end Chris.
I'm Genevieve, and I have coffee.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Yeah, get ready to get fucked.
I'm Frank.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I'm very scared. It's not normal for me.
Have you had your emotion chip installed?
I have.
And the first thing you're fearing in your life is Genevieve's coffee.
It has not.
Not even me with coffee,
calibrated.
just my coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is it the coffee that's going to kick... I'm Jake, by the way. Is the coffee going to kick his ass, or...
No, I drink coffee.
And then you... So coffee is to you as spinach is to Popeye.
Pretty much.
As sensu beans are to Saiyans.
Okay. Yeah, all Saiyans, I guess, sure.
Yeah, so first off, in my watch through of the original Dragon Ball and first 10th of Dragon Ball
Which I
Z,
have started watching through myself, but go on.
they really underutilize these sensu beans. Where are they grown? Why would you not just carry a bag of them at all times? I'm nearly defeated. Munch, munch, munch.
I mean, they do in Z.
If you're unfamiliar with sensu beans, as soon as you eat them, you feel like $1 million. Okay.
I wish I would have had one of those
for,
last week.
Days.
That's good. Talk at the same time.
Yep, you're welcome.
You're
welcome. It's the coffee. Get fucked.
You ready to get fucked, man?
Oh, Jesus. Who let Stalin in here?
oh boy.
Get back in the closet.
Okay. The
Stalin in the closet.
He won't come out the closet.
The industry thing I wanted to talk about. It's sort of old news, so maybe it finally trickled down to you plebeians. Did you see Telltale is shuttering most of their development studio?
I did see that.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Shuttering?
Closing.
Did you say shutting or shuttering? I honestly heard
Shuttering, like shutters on your windows.
Okay, that makes sense now.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's a complete shutdown, but it's like 180 developers or whoever.
Yeah, they're basically keeping on a skeleton crew to finish what they have in the pipeline now, and then I think they'll probably just be done after that. If I remember right, they filed for bankruptcy.
Ooh.
Yeah, you know it. Yes, I believe that is the case.
In which case, they probably are just keeping on the skeleton crew to finish the game, sell what they can, and then paying off any creditors that they have, and then going away forever. Bye.
Now, there's a couple different kinds of bankruptcy you can do. There's one that's like reorganization.
Yep.
I think that's what Toys R Us did, right?
No, they just shut the fuck down.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
they gone.
All right. Well, then I don't know an example.
Chapter 11 versus Chapter 7.
Can you explain those differences?
I believe Chapter 11 is where you fully shut down, and you're just like, it's a orderly liquidation of all of your assets to pay off as many of your creditors in the most fair way possible. And then Chapter 7 is where you reorganize and try and like haircut all of your existing debt to a more reasonable manner, and then try and pay off your creditors, but still remain open for business.
It's like a legal method of what's the word?
Discharging?
Yeah, or like refinancing.
Restructuring
almost.
your debt. Yeah. So essentially, like, let's say you're a company, you've got $1 million in debt, and you can't afford to pay it all back. You just work with your creditors. You're like, all right, look, I might be able to pay it all back eventually, but it's going to take me longer to pay you back, or I can pay you back less.
Right.
Or I go out of business and you get nothing back.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot, like, you'll work with a judge who then is supposed to go through the process of determining what the most fair method of paying off who first and how much and in what order.
So why would you go Chapter 11 over Chapter 7? Why would you completely shut everything down? You think there's no hope ever?
Yeah, if your continuing business operations are going to continue to lose you money. You know, if your Radio Shack and opening for business every day loses you $4 million, you just stop opening for business, because what you have now is $4 million more than what you'll have tomorrow.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you just, like, I guess at some point it's not worth even trying to turn it around.
Yeah, exactly. If you're losing so much money that just opening for business is going to lose you a lot of money, then you just shut down. You're like, well, this sucks. We're done, out of here, pay off whatever we can, whoever we can, and then that's it.
So this Telltale decision to keep on a skeleton crew, it seemed a little strange to me. Is that they believe that they could basically, they're close enough to delivery that the cost of finishing production would yield more money than they would save if they just didn't invest in it at all.
You see this a lot more so in like construction firms when they file for bankruptcy than say like a game development, but the same logic applies. You have work in progress, right? And the value of that work in progress will be and more than what your continuing operating expenses will be to finish. So if, like, imagine if you're a home builder, you're going to file for bankruptcy, right? But you've got 30 homes that are going to cost you $2 million to build, to finish out, and then they're going to sell for $5 million. Yeah, you'll just keep on enough guys to build those last 30 homes, and then you'll probably finish the bankruptcy process from there.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. So I guess it wouldn't be enough to save the business or anything like that.
I don't know. They'll probably figure that out in bankruptcy proceedings.
Now, if
but
you
most likely not.
If you do Chapter 11 and you stop doing business, can you be acquired, I suppose? Like,
your assets can be acquired.
Right, so like your intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happens if a company folds to their assets? Does that company still hold the rights to that stuff?
Well, chances are if the company folds, the company no longer exists, right?
Then it becomes somebody must still own that.
But I mean, it depends, right? So if you owe any money to anybody, which you probably do as a business, almost any major business, even like people are very afraid of debt because they don't understand it. Well-run businesses always have debt. Because it, in most cases, makes more sense to spend somebody else's money before you spend your own if you're going to get a lot of money out of using that. So chances are the business has creditors, which means those creditors will have to be paid. The two options the creditors have are to seize the company's assets themselves. Most times, if you're a bank, you don't want to own a video game franchise, so you then force the company to sell your assets, your intellectual, which in this case you're talking about intellectual property, to someone else at whatever they can get, and then take that money.
It's similar to what happens with like foreclosed houses, right?
Exactly.
They're really only interested in recovering what they have out, right?
Exactly.
So a house might be a $200,000 house, but if the bank only needs $60K, they'll sell it for a song just to get their money and move on.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, they have no interest in actually owning property, right? It's not their job.
Now, I was wondering if this is sort of what leads to that situation that we've talked about before with abandonware, where this intellectual property exists, but the company that held it has dissolved. So I suppose technically it is owned, but there's nobody in existence to pursue any transgressions on your intellectual property.
Yeah, so I think that's more of a case of like the company just stopped doing business, and it probably operates, or I shouldn't say operates, it probably exists, right? But it just doesn't operate. It has no operations, no employees, no assets other than their intellectual property. And it's more expensive probably to go after somebody using that than you would get from doing so.
Right. So I was, every once in a while when I'm online, we'll hear discussion about intellectual property and how the reason that you see like trademark markings or copyright or registered whatever on logos and stuff is because you have to make it conspicuous, I believe, that you own that it is trademarked or whatever. And then if somebody is infringing on it, you must pursue legal limitation of that. You can't just let people do stuff and then turn around and be like, we don't want X other person to do it.
Yeah, you have to, you can't selectively discriminate or selectively enforce your intellectual property protections.
Which leads us to this whole, it leads to a pretty interesting thought experiment because, you know, how long does something need to be owned so that it cannot be used without paying licensing fees? And what are the advantages to having things in the public domain? All I know is my layman's understanding that one of the biggest lobbyists for extension of these protections is Disney with Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is what, like 100 and some odd years old?
Yep. Something like that.
I don't understand how a company can get to use something over a century old. I'm really for this idea that, I mean, okay, so my basic understanding of the system is you need to protect somebody's trademark or patent or whatever for a period of time so that it becomes financially incentivized to do research on the chance that something will pay off, right? So of 100 things that you research, maybe one actually is worth a bunch of money. That company needs the ability to recoup its losses for those 99 prototypes, plus make enough profit that it's been worth its time as the exclusive provider of that good or whatever. I get that. But 100 years seems like way more than we need. And then I'm not a big fan of letting companies...
They're one of the biggest companies in the world.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of just letting a company sit idle with something that somebody else created, 100 years ago. Like this idea that if you get your amount of time, then you got to come up with a new idea, I think is better. But, the only arguments I've had about this are with my own voice in my own head. So
I'm fine with a company as long as they're actively using something, continuing to be protected by it, right? But the key there is that they have to actively be using it. And I mean, Disney is actively using Mickey Mouse, right? They're pretty much actively using all of their intellectual property to continue to make money. And I don't see, like, to me, if I were a creator of something, or even if not, if I were a company that created intellectual property, because at this point, right, whoever the original guy that created Mickey Mouse, they've expanded upon his work and they've created their own thing out of it, right? Yeah. And it would be really bad, I think, not just to your company, but to consumers in general, if all of a sudden everybody else were able to just start making stuff that they could put Mickey Mouse on. And the main reason is if you are used for decades of seeing anywhere Mickey Mouse is created, that's Disney, and now all of a sudden you see something else that with Mickey Mouse in it, let's say there's violence or porn or something like that with it, now people will assume that Disney made that, and that could be extremely damaging to your business.
Well, I mean, you could already do that kind of stuff under fair use with parody and education and all that kind of I mean, parody is pretty broad. Yeah. Right?
But in that is the explicit, admission that the owner of this property didn't make it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's That's a very low threshold over which to cross. I mean, if some company wanted to take Mickey Mouse and make a bunch of T-shirts with his face and just say this isn't Disney sanctioned, I'm sure they would do that somewhere on their T-shirt in order to make those T-shirts.
There are criteria for transformative or informative purposes, right? And there's growing instances of legal precedent, especially with all the YouTube stuff over the years of what constitutes that sort of thing. I think maybe more of it has to be hashed out when it comes to material product. I mean, you can obtain bootleg bullshit, peripherals, paraphernalia for any IP from, the dude selling T-shirts at front of metal shows to eBay artists who just think Mickey Mouse is cute and, whatever, they mold clay as a hobby and sell it on Etsy for for some scratch, you know what I mean? So there, when it comes, I don't know very much about bankruptcy or licensing or whatnot, but through the YouTube creators I've seen go through legal shit and have videos taken down, and actually, crowdfund lawsuits and whatnot, to try to combat, abuse from the other side of the DMCA, which is kind of, if it's not what we're talking about, it's damn close.
The Devil May Cry Act?
Yeah, that's it.
What is it? What is
Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
Same thing.
Can you summarize it a little bit? Because I'm sure
it is the standing legal permission for, third parties other than the owner of an IP, of an intellectual property, to reference and display portions of that intellectual property in a transformative way, which has like a legal definition of, I believe, like either for critique, informational, parody, and like a couple others maybe. I'm not a lawyer. This is just what I've retained from witnessing things go down sometimes. But it's the reason why guys like YMS and Red Letter Media can show clips from a movie and even longer clips of movies and talk about them, in reviews and discussions that are often as long or longer than the movie, and not, when they do get their video taken down, they have grounds to fight it. That's what the DMCA is all about, is protecting the parody artist and the commentator and the critic from large IPs who do have a right to have their property protected and to reserve its use, and the line a very clear example of where the line is like, Jake, start a YouTube channel just to upload Disney movie soundtracks whole cloth, right? Until recently, until these IP owners wisened up and started doing it on their own, or opening up things like for record labels or whatever to have channels where they will voluntarily host this shit, or the host of that channel will buy the license to put it on YouTube, right? Because now if you pick a song on YouTube, if it's just a whole cloth song for your enjoyment, most likely there's like license information in the description, right? Like built into the UI of YouTube at this point, this is the record label, this is blah, 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 this is the movie owner, whatever it is. So that, in that way, the third-party uploader is explicitly declaring, this is the property of so-and-so. I am authorized, to show to you for your enjoyment as a proxy to them, right? Versus I am commentating on this album or this movie or whatever. I'm exalting it. I'm critiquing it. I'm ripping it apart. I'm making a cartoon of it. I'm making porn of it. Right? Whatever. That's all permitted as long as it's explicitly as such and it's not misrepresenting the actual owner of the property. It's how I, in my amateur way, interpret what I know.
And I see that as a nice sort of in-between limitation on how a content creator, an intellectual property creator's stuff can be used by a community until the expiration of that exclusive ownership. And I remain unchanged in my view that current protection lasts too long. At 100 years, I don't feel any sympathy for you as a corporation saying, all right, this golden goose has laid its egg. We need to come up with something else, right? You've made your money, you've made your research, and now in order to continue as a company, you have to innovate. And I understand that this goes against what established corporations like to do, and that is continue to do business the way that they've always done business and make money the way that they know how, right?
Well, that's a pattern of behavior that speaks to so much else that's good and bad about this country and the world.
Right. So I was talking to, I was having a conversation with a guy at work about, I'm not going to get into the issue itself, but part of the conversation about workers coming into the United States, working illegally. And he hit me with the old, they're working jobs that Americans don't want to work, which personally is something I don't buy. I believe that they're working jobs that Americans don't want to work for the wages that the company wants to pay. And it led into this belief I have about the fundamentals of capitalism, in that certain things are supposed to happen when you can't do business the way, in a certain way. You are either supposed to innovate and come up with a more efficient way to do business, right? Instead of using human labor, come up with a machine that can, I mean, there's trees out there that pick apples by shaking the tree. It's faster than a human being doing it. Maybe the loss is less. I don't know, whatever. You're either supposed to innovate or you go away, and that's it, right? And I don't feel a whole lot of sympathy when these business, well, I can't do it. Well, that's the whole point of the system, is that you either get good or you get out, right? So when a company's been around for 100 years or 50 years or whatever, I mean, even 30 years seems pushing it for me for your favorite intellectual property. And you're like, whoa, but it's our stuff. Well, get good and do something else, right? Because if you can't do it, somebody else can. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of where I'm coming from. I don't understand this long-term protection of an old idea. How does that do anybody any good in this idea that we're supposed to, I think we're supposed to foster innovation and growth and new ideas, and preventing other people from directly accessing a good idea that somebody had 100 years ago that could spawn a ton of other good ideas, even better if they have direct access to the IP. Well, who does that help? You know what I mean? Like, what good does that exclusion do anyone?
I wonder about the experiment of, we decide to open up TGNA Disney Planet theme park in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Access your ticket orders.
You know what I mean? We build a bunch of attractions. It's only Disney's IPs that have fallen off. I guess we couldn't take Disney necessarily. We could do because Disney is not really an IP, it's a brand, right?
Right.
But we could do Mickey Mouse Mickey Mouse World, right?
Or even like the Steamboat Willie.
Yeah, that could be one of the rides. You know what I mean? Well, any Disney IPs that fall under this century threshold, if we impose it, what would that? I don't know what would happen. What would the effect be? And let's assume it was reasonably successful enough to stay in operation for several years.
Sure.
We get it together. People are coming. It's half, if you live on the Eastern Seaboard and you're up in the Northeast, it's half the drive time to Disney World and much cheaper. In the way what would the effect be? I have a feeling there would still be gazillions of visitors to Disney World and Disneyland.
Right.
But that's because of Disney and the rest of their ship that's very much going to be afloat. If Mickey Mouse vanished from everyone's memory and all existence right now, they'd still be fine. You know what I mean? What about then a smaller IP that has maintained? I don't know. Can we think of any that would fall within this?
The
I
century
don't know.
mark?
Maybe Harper Ferry's To Kill a Mockingbird.
Okay.
Right. How long did she write that? Oh my God!
I don't know.
I forget who.
Harper
Harper
Lee.
Lee, not Harper Ferry.
Ferry. What
Harper's Ferry was like a arsenal in Virginia during the Civil War.
Okay, cool.
Those are two new things I didn't remember from school.
I think she just.
I was gonna let you go because I screwed up Chapter 7 and Chapter 11. I've flip flopped them.
I thought maybe you did.
Yeah, I was just gonna let it go what you did because
We're frauds. We're truly frauds.
we kind of know what we're talking about, but we're only half paying attention to what we're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
So this other day, I had my third arm wrapped around my head, and I broke my own neck. What were we talking about?
Yep.
Disney, 100 years. I feel like it would apply
Small
to.
IP.
I feel like it would apply to so few things. Who gives a shit?
Right.
It's kind of where I land on the whole issue.
Well, but I mean, you could, when you start talking about the time frame, 100 years, I think you get a lot of people, but you start to get 50, 30 years, I
also think there's a huge difference between entertainment content and industrial or like actual creation, like scientific or societal value. And not that entertainment doesn't have societal value, but you know what I mean. It's something that you actually make something out of versus entertainment, and that's a major difference there, right? I absolutely agree that a company should lose protections after some time, and maybe it is 100 years, maybe it's 70 years, maybe it's 75 years on their intellectual property that they create for entertainment for other people to view for free.
Right.
You mentioned the public domain. It becomes public domain. You could go out and torrent a copy of whatever something is 100 years old. The company doesn't deserve to make money off of that anymore. They created it 100 years ago. You're absolutely right. Create something new, right? If you want my money, show me you're still relevant, create something new. I'm with that. But I don't think that necessarily means they have the license that other creators then have the license to go out and steal their property and create something new with something that they created.
Well, and this is what I was thinking when Jake was mentioning like Steamboat Willie land, right? If the time was 100 years, then the owner of that previous IP had 100 years, no competition to come up with that idea to make money, and they fucking didn't. You get your own time to do it, and if you waste the opportunity, that's how it is. I mean, isn't that generally the mentality of the business world? Someone's going to eat your lunch if you don't get good. It obviously was a good idea. It obviously made money. You didn't take the time to take the risk in the 100 years. Somebody else did, and it paid off. And that's sort of where I'm coming from. You have all this time to do all this stuff, and you didn't.
Well, we have so many examples of exactly what you're describing that are only different in the detail that rights did legally change hands. You know what I mean? Like what I'm saying is what you described already happens in a world where licenses apply. Mm-hmm. And it could only happen, I mean, maybe not a ton more, because odds are, in a lot of cases, things go by the wayside because they were commercial failures in the first place, right? So the odds of them being a commercial success later are even slimmer than their chances were in the first place. I watch a lot of this channel called Forgotten Weapons on YouTube. They also have a blog and a website, and they do lots of historical firearm stuff. And from that, I've kind of picked up a working knowledge of the development cycles of many iconic and not so iconic weapons. By no means am I anywhere near the level of expert that the host of that channel is, but I've seen examples with that, right? The Luger 9mm, iconic World War II German pistol. Yeah. I think even World War I also started life. I of course can't remember the fucking name now, but its prior iteration, was the Volcanic? No, that was something different. That was a revolver. It was one of the very first commercially viable semi-automatic handgun designs in like the late 19th century into the early 20th. And it resembled it was horrible looking. It was a fucking brick, had a big like recoil spring in the back over your wrist, kind of like how you see with Lugers, but far bigger and more pronounced. And the inventor of that gun didn't like what one of the smiths working under him, one Mr. Luger, suggested improvements for it. The company, or the military, German military, I forget exactly. Again, not an expert. Whoever was bankrolling this whole project wanted Luger's ideas. The rights owner to the main part of the mechanism didn't. He eventually was stripped of his rights because they belonged to the company he worked for. They fired him. And we now know the gun, the subsequent gun by the subsequent person, Luger. But the initial mechanism was pioneered by this other dude who I do not recall the name of, and many other people, lay people, do not either.
Right.
But Luger is damn near a household name still, especially in the firearms world. So, you know, all he did was modify an existing design, and because the original owner didn't have a legal way to retain the rights to the invention, they moved on.
Now, I think if you've been a fan of the podcast for the past 55 episodes, you'll know that I'm not necessarily advocating for this sort of corporate bullying of individuals, right? It's a tough break for that guy who didn't have the good sense to embrace a newer, better idea, to be stripped of his intellectual property.
I'm not lamenting it either.
Well, I'm just sort of working my way around a thought here. He was stripped of the idea. It went to the company, and then somebody else was able to improve upon it. The original owner was not able to stand in the way of progress. Now, this is a great example if you wanted to have confirmation bias of why individuals shouldn't maintain protection, but that's not necessarily right. So if the guy had the IP for 30 years, maybe in that 30 years he would have come around to the idea, oh, my way is a failure, and Mr. Luger and I should partner together. We should both make money off of this thing. I also acknowledge that
two world wars would have gone by, and the Germans would have had probably a very different and likely inferior handgun.
Right.
Not that they needed the help because they were our enemy at the time, but point being, internally there, it worked out for the better for them.
Right. But and then, hindsight is 20/20 and all that. And then I understand this idea that if you come up with an IP, you do all the work and you only have a short period of time to recoup on that. It's going to be very discouraging if somebody can simply wait you out. Right. You need a certain level of protection. So if somebody sees a good idea that you have, but you lack the ability to progress it, they approach you for a partnership as opposed to sit and vulture over the expiration of your protection, in a 3 years time or whatever. But and I really do acknowledge that some individuals, maybe many, are forced into a position where they have a really good idea, but they need to partner with a big established power in order to see their product or idea flow through to existence, because they don't have the means to create a prototype, to distribute, to put in front of people. And then you can end up in a situation where you are stripped of your rights to an idea that you had because you didn't have the means to access the market. I get it. I get all this stuff. Right. And that's why there are trademark and patent lawyers and people who know their shit talking about this. But I think that there is a period of time, and I think the nature of the business world exists such that after 50 years, 30 years, you're like, listen, it sucks, dude. Sorry. It sucks that in 30 years you didn't think to make Steamboat Willie's tickle my willy in the bathroom stall, sex crazy adult ride. I'm sorry you didn't think about it.
I was just there last weekend.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm sorry that you didn't think to put your googly eyes on a pet rock after 30 years and sell it in the 70s and make $1 million. I'm sorry you didn't think of that, but you fucking didn't. We got to move on, buddy. That's it. And it...
Tell me more about this googly-eyed rock.
You never heard of the pet rock?
I've heard of it, but is that someone...
I made them in second grade.
Does someone actually own that as
well,
an
God
idea?
invented rocks, so...
Yes, and he's a millionaire for it.
So God's
got so many ducats, bro.
Yeah.
Does he have any whippets, though?
Dude, how do you think it stays up on those clouds, man? Buoyancy.
So, I mean, I think generally a patent lasts 17 years or something like that.
So, I don't know.
And with IP, you with character rights and movie rights, the rights would expire if you don't have active production going on. So you see these like dumping movies made really cheap by these huge corporations to keep up the rights on superheroes. But one of the big things that I see is drug companies specifically looking at these inhalers, these medicated inhalers. Why do I care? Because I use them. They will change the dispensing mechanism, the little squeeze thing, in really an practically insignificant way, in that, you know, it's doing the same job, but in apparently a legally novel way, so that they can maintain protection on the delivery of this medication instead of having affordable name brands out there, which I think is pretty shitty. You know,
Well, I mean, medicine in general in this whole country is pretty shitty unless you have a lot of money or very good insurance.
right?
You know,
I've been taking the same inhaler medication since I was a wee lad, so over 20 years, and I still went in to get medicine, and it was $300 for 1 month's thing. Now, do I have dumpy insurance? Yeah, but this idea that it's been around for 23 years unchanged. $300? Like, I should be able to pick it up for $20.
Insulin's worse. The price of insulin is outrageous, and
And
that
has been
longer.
around for
That's been
like-
around for a very long time.
Yeah.
So, at some point, it's like, if somebody comes up with a way to get it, like, make it cheap, it's like, tough shit, guys. You made your money. Like, we got to move on. And that's sort of where I'm coming from. So, it's interesting. There's still a lot I'd like to learn about it. And if anybody who listens knows about this shit, maybe write us an email or tweet at us, and we can get in contact and learn a little bit, read up.
I did fax us.
Yeah, I did figure out the password to our Twitter account again.
Oh, that's good to know.
I got locked out.
Maybe you'll actually use it.
Yeah, maybe.
But this Telltale situation,
Do we know anything about, like, specifically why? I mean, they had some good sellers, didn't they?
No, well, yeah, they had some good sellers, but most were not nearly as much as they thought. I mean, this actually is kind of, Bill, what you were talking about. They did not really innovate all that well. They pretty much just had the same format of games that they pushed out continually, like the original The Walking Dead one, which was by far their best selling, and their Game of Thrones one. Those were the two good ones that they had.
perhaps good selling. That Game
Good
of Thrones.
selling. Yeah. I should say that. And they were essentially the same games. And
Right. So this really does underline sort of that issue, as you said. There. Okay, I'm going to take a step back. When we have reviewed community mods in video games pretty in depth, right? We talked about mods to the Arma game, the Arma series, and that led to PUBG. And PUBG is the Big Mac Daddy original for the battle royale format of game now, where you have 50 people, 100 people dropped in from the air into an area. You pick up weapons and resources, and then the field of play narrows a certain amount of time until one person is left. Well, another company came along and said, "You don't own the battle royale genre. We're going to make a game that is so strikingly similar that is almost exactly the same, except in the fine details." And we talked about it on the show, and we're like, well, I mean, it is a genre. You can't shut out a whole genre, in my mind, especially from a game that was built as a mod to another game. This was a good idea. And now we have two really great games. And Fortnite, the game I'm talking about, is eating the lunch of PUBG right now, because their distribution model it's free. Their devs are highly engaged in the community. They update their game often, and PUBG still can't get their shit together, right? So Fortnite continues as this behemoth, whereas PUBG's got its own problems. But I mean, the game fundamentally is almost the same thing. It's like almost the same thing. The details are different, but it's pretty much the same thing. So now we moved on, and we see a huge AAA producer with, and I think Frank's going to touch on this later, Call of Duty Black Ops $4 billion or whatever it is, has released a game, a $60 game, and one aspect of it is this multiplayer, this battle royale mode, and this is pretty much the ideal cycle, I think, for consumers, in that game comes out, community mods it, somebody else makes another version of it, fine tunes it, and then some big company with a bunch of money comes in and says, y'all did a really great job. We're going to put our high level devs and a lot of money into this, and we're going to put out a brand new basis for the community to grow off of, right? Here's the best, what the best of the best can put out there. The best of the best who are employed, blah, blah, blah. So, that worked out pretty good. We're looking at Telltale, and Telltale sort of took this idea of QuickTime events, and if you're not familiar with QuickTime events, instead of reacting to moving through a game and like, oh, there's a log, I need to jump, oh, this guy's punching me, I need to dodge, it sends you through what's essentially a cinematic engagement. So your character might be fighting another character, and as your enemy swings a pole at you, it pops up for you to hit the X button. And if you hit it right, your character will dodge. If you hit it wrong, you'll be hit. And maybe you can only be hit 3 times before you fail the engagement. So it'll do things like you'll have to mash A, hold R trigger or whatever to like lift a heavy gate in the flow of this engagement. And that is really what I think epitomized Telltale's games. And when I was first exposed to that, I thought it was really new and novel and interesting. Now, as they progressed, another big thing that they had was that their games were story-based with multiple endings, tons of characters that you're supposed to have, relationships that you can either build or destroy. And one thing that they say is this game is it changes as you play. Your decisions matter, right? There's a famous internet meme, such and such will remember that, right? If you call somebody a butt fuck to their face, they make like a grumpo face, and in the top left it'll say like, Charlie will remember that. I mean, so like,
but is Charlie a butt fuck?
Yes, but he'll remember that you told him that, so later on maybe he blows your wife's brains out or something. I don't know.
Or just blows your wife.
Well, probably not, though, because even though these games say that your decisions matter, a lot of the player sentiment is that they don't. Now, what I really see as Telltale's issue in this space, in this specific kind of video game space, is that they had an initial good idea. They had first mover opportunity, right? They were like the big players when it came to this introduction, and they did not have major development beyond this idea. They had some really good fine tuning. I've watched playthroughs of a number of their different games, and it gets better. It really does get better. It feels more like a video game and less like a click simulator, like Herliah tried to believe, where you're just clicking, you're not actually interacting with anything. If you recall, we talked about that earlier. It's like somewhere in the middle, and it was fun, and it looks good. And the nice thing about this is it allows something to be really story heavy, because a lot of it's character dialogue and neat art styles. They did a bunch of stuff really well, but I don't recall any major jumps.
Well,
no big changes. And then as it progressed, it started to seem like your decisions actually made a difference towards the end of their lifespan, right? But a lot of their work seemed to be carried along in there was some good writing, but it was also the quality of the IP that they used. Like The Walking Dead, they did a nice interpretation of the IP, but so much of it was carried by that. They did A Wolf Among Us. A Wolf Among Us was a super cool idea. All the fairy tale characters are living in the real world, and they gotta hide, and somebody's trying to murder them, and you figure it out. It's neat stuff. But look at a game that we talked about before, Detroit, Becoming Human. That game shows you how your goddamn decisions affect the game by showing you a decision tree with like 200 different interactions and passes. It shows you at the end, and they say, well, look at this one over here that you didn't even touch on. There's a whole different way you could have done this. That engages the player in believing that things are going on, and I that your decisions make sense or make a difference. And I've seen other games do the cinematic semi-QTE in a more effective way, and it's a bummer that Telltale couldn't do it right when they had the idea, but here we are.
So I think, Bill, like from what I read, right, the main misunderstanding that Telltale had wasn't necessarily with the actual gameplay. Most people who bought the game were fine with the gameplay as it was, right? There's probably some, people who are more into video games that wanted to see some more features out there, but, for the most part, the people who bought the games and paid for the games and played the games were fine with the way the games played. The problem was actually with the writing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the main problem was so for instance, for Minecraft, right? They wanted a game that was for a more mature audience, completely ignoring the fact that the main people who played Minecraft are like under the age of 15, right? So they just created something that the people who wanted to play the game, who would be most interested in that IP, you were spot on in saying that they're carried by the IP that they license, right? They absolutely were. They took other IP. This was a great example of what you were saying with, somebody doesn't know how to use their IP like The Walking Dead. They don't know how to make fucking video games, but they would be popular, so let's license it out to somebody that knows what to do with it. So they did that, and then this company, Telltale, came up with a great idea for it because they knew, and they came up with not only a great idea for it, but they knew how to make the game to target the people that they wanted to play the game, that they thought this would be the people that are most interested in buying this, so this is how we're going to make the game. They started to basically just completely drop the ball on that, so they made 2 games. They spent a ton of money licensing Minecraft and Guardians of the Galaxy, right? That's where most of their cash went. And then when they decided, their management team decided, okay, we want the Minecraft game to be, more mature. We want it to be for, the core audience of this game is going to be people who like Minecraft, but who want to see something that's not as childish as Minecraft is, right? And then similarly with Guardians of the Galaxy, they thought the best way to make a Guardians of the Galaxy game would be to create like a really dark, gritty, gruesome game that focused on like, how terrible stuff was in the Guardians of the Galaxy universe, even though anybody who's seen those movies know it's all about the jokes. They love that the characters are always cracking jokes and they're just going on being, Chris Pratt and
Trash
Panda flying around with rockets and shooting stuff and being like, yeah, wasn't that fucking cool, Trash Panda? They're like, hey, screw you, buddy, I love this, I'm cooler than you. And everybody laughs and says, haha, those guys are so funny. So they basically just created something that everybody's like, what are you doing? This doesn't make any sense, and it's not why we like this franchise at all, so nobody bought it.
Right. And I guess what I was trying to get at was that it couldn't stand on its own legs as a game, right? So of course the people who bought it were okay with the gameplay, but my point was that they didn't innovate in such a way as to engage more. I didn't think they changed enough to engage more individuals beyond the people who were already comfortable with what they had. Now, I mean, that could just be me, but I was never compelled to go out and get a Telltale game from all the reviews and stuff that I'd looked, because it was pretty much the same thing all the time. Yeah, I liked the core ideas, but it didn't pull me in as a new consumer.
But I think you're misunderstanding their point. Their point was not to bring in more consumers, right? The reason that I don't remember who owns. Is it Marvel that owns Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Microsoft owns Minecraft now, right?
Yeah.
The reason those companies licensed their IP out to Telltale was because we think you guys do something that we can't do, And then by licensing this out to you and you paying us money, we now get to make money off of something that you can do. And then you can go do what you do and also make money out of it, which is exactly what your point was. But what it actually turned out was Telltale couldn't make money off of it. They couldn't engage that user base that the other companies had already created. And therefore, they spent a lot of money licensing products. And when it actually came time to make the products, didn't get back what they spent. So then they went bankrupt.
Yeah. So I guess we're talking two sides of the same coin, right? They couldn't make money by picking up the fans of the IP that they were licensed, and I'm saying,
and that was their business plan.
Yeah. And what I was saying is they also couldn't pull in a larger gaming community because they didn't innovate at all. So they became like basically a one-trick pony, and if you want the Marvel content, you're going to go with who makes Marvel well. And if you want the gaming content, there are other companies out there eating the lunch of this ostensibly. Maybe I'm viewing them incorrectly as a gaming company. I should be viewing them as a storytelling company with a gaming interface. I don't know. I did read a little bit about how there was some work on a mobile game, and they looked heavily into that, probably because you can make $3 million a day with that stuff. But
just like most businesses that file for bankruptcy, that are big name brands that people have actually heard of, right? They had a good business plan that worked for a while that they then could no longer execute upon.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And okay. Yeah. It just, I just thought that
there's a bunch of things from what I read about them and it was mostly that their management team sucked.
How do you get a management team that sucks? That's what I've been hearing about Sears. Sears just finally filed for bankruptcy, right?
Yeah.
And I've been hearing for years, like, this CEO is crashing this 100-year-old airplane.
He definitely didn't help. He had the thing was with him. So I actually read a lot about Sears because it's a big deal. He had Eddie Lampert was the CEO's name, and he called it right. He called the retail business correct. In 2005, he said the future is online. We need to become, an online retailer. And his management team fought him very hard, right? So he at the time was not yet CEO, but he was a major shareholder and also lent the company a bunch of money. And he said, this is what we need to do to happen. And the retail executives at the time were like, no. We have a bunch of stores. Our customers are the ones who are going to come in here and buy stuff from the store. And he was like, you guys are dumb. So eventually, after fighting them for too long and them not listening or doing anything that he thought was correct, he fired them and made himself CEO since he owned enough shares to do so. But by that point, it was too late. Oh. And they just could never recover.
So why is it such a big deal? You said it's a big deal. Why is it a big deal?
What do you mean? What's such a big deal?
The Sears situation.
Because it's a huge company. They own a lot of real estate throughout the country. It's going to have a lot of trickle-down effects for the retail economy, right? So I don't remember what the square footage estimate, but they own millions of square feet of retail space in malls throughout the country. Because unlike a lot of other retailers, they actually bought the store space that they own, right? So they have a ton of real estate now that they own that they're not going to use because they're going to shut a bunch of stores. So that's going to flood the retail, like the corporate real estate market, with a bunch of unused space. And they're going to have to try and fill that somehow.
That's also coinciding with the death of the shopping mall.
Exactly.
Which another podcast, Deep Fat Fried, did a sweet kind of rundown of malls in their current state. Fairly general, but lots of examples of malls in this country literally abandoned for many years, and wildlife is taking them over again. Like that level of...
Rise of the plants.
Of bullshit, like skylights crashing in and never getting fixed, and there's just snow and dirt all over what were once, grand, gorgeous, foyers and these massive, and it just speaks to the same point. Yeah. The future of retail is online, and I'm very much a participant in it.
It really blows my mind that it can come to a point where you just abandon an asset, right? People will just abandon homes and not pay taxes anymore. Businesses will abandon malls, and they're just like, all right, take it out of my ass if you want. You know, and like it just falls into disrepair. These established hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars worth of assets are just, it doesn't make, there's no way to make money off.
So there's a
all
mall
because people stop showing up.
Yeah, there's a mall near where I grew up, right? The Schuylkill Mall, and it is, I'm pretty sure right now, abandoned. I don't think there's anybody. There might be one or two of the stores operating there, but the last time I remember when I was a kid, so I'll go back to this, in the late 90s and early 2000s, right? So when I was in like middle school, that place was bumping, you know? Everybody hung out there. The movie theater was there. That was like the arcade. I loved that arcade. It was the only place that had Dance Dance Revolution. And when you're 9 and hyperactive, that is the shit. They had great stores. Every place in the mall was filled. Like, I don't think there was a single empty storefront in the mall. And over time, you know, you started to see stores leave and more stores leave and all that shit. And I remember, I can't remember when the last time I was there, but I just remember an entire wing of the mall. First of all, the place was empty in general, but then there was just an entire mall, no stores there, you know, and there was just leaks in the ceiling with buckets underneath it. I mean, it was so weird to see a place that looked pretty much dead, that I remember growing up being like you said, like they had these big fountains and there were always people milling about, and the restaurant, there was a Chick-fil-A and an Arby's, they were always filled. There was like a regular sit down pizza shop that was always filled, and now there's no one anywhere.
Yeah, so apparently kids when we were growing up hung out at the mall. I never did that. I totally missed out on that.
I did a couple times.
And I totally missed out on that.
Well, that was a suburban thing. You grew up in Northeast Philly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's not...
I grew up next to Jake, so we were both in the suburbs.
This is suburbia, yeah. I mean, most of my mall hanging days were in middle and elementary school. By high school, you know, I didn't really know anyone who was doing that.
Yeah.
Right. So here's the thing that, like, I don't think I'm mostly stupid, right? And every time I try to,
one of us.
Every time I try to get like smart and like predict, like, oh, maybe I'll look into stocks, maybe I could start a business. I like get this idea I think is good, and then I talk to somebody like Frank, and it's like, actually, you have no fucking clue what you're talking about. Here's all this stuff to even know what's going on right now. And if you know what's going on right now, you're too late to make any money because all these other people knew what was going to happen before you could even see it. And I sit here and I go, am I just too dumb to know, or is there something I'm supposed to be reading? Like I cannot figure how. What would I need to know that like it was the end for malls 10 years ago?
So Frank, what's your secret?
I definitely do read a lot. I probably goal myself for about 500 pages a week.
What are you reading? Right? Because I read the headlines.
Online stuff.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, Financial Times, The Economist. I'll read random articles that I can find. Harvard Business Review's always pretty solid. Actual regular books, right? One that I've been up and down reading is Capital in the 21st Century by Thomas Piketty, which is very good for those who have not read it. Most people are not going to read it. It's pretty dry if you don't like economics. But yeah, you gotta read this stuff. You got to read people who are experienced in this stuff, giving their thoughts on what the current state is and what it's going to look like in the future. And then you have to try and draw past experience, use your past experiences and your own knowledge to try and extrapolate, okay, this is where we're at now. This is where people that are in the industry that are going to make major decisions affecting it think it's going to be in the future. Are they spot on? Do they have the ability to shape it in that direction? Will they pull it in that direction? Are there other forces that are going to pull it in a different direction? All that kind of stuff. I think it was very obvious. I think most people knew 10 years ago that the future of retail was going to be online, except for the people that were in charge of companies like Macy's and what are some other major department stores? JCPenney, Bonton. Nordstrom's actually done pretty well for themselves. Yeah. But those are the people in charge of those businesses were the ones who thought, I know what I'm talking about because I've been in this industry for 40 years.
And everything's going to keep going the way it has been.
Well, yeah. Aren't those the people I'm supposed to be reading, though? Shouldn't I be reading the people who've been in the business for 40 years?
Yeah, you should. And then you need to try and figure out, are these guys idiots who are too entrenched in the way things used to be that they can't notice the obvious shark that's about to eat their lunch? Or do they know exactly what's going on?
This is the episode of lunch eating.
Yes, it is. Very
Lunch
much so.
theft.
Yeah.
Lunch theft. Know their meals. Just lunch.
It's like a business tycoon phrase. So y'all can eat my ass lunch.
There's a rash of lunch thefts.
There is. There are.
Sweeping the nation.
So, I mean, that's like, that's what I look at, right? And I think it was pretty, if you go back and you read what people were saying about retail 10 years ago, they were just so far off base. They would sit there and say like, well, I think the main problem is going to be getting it to everybody because nobody wants to pay for shipping.
Well, do you also encounter voices, that aren't entrenched? I assume you do. Visionaries.
Yeah. And that's when you look and you say, Jesus Christ, this guy's sitting here literally saying like everything that this other person is saying is complete bullshit and has facts to back it up. What is going to happen when this actually becomes true? And that's the one thing that you have to be careful with is a lot of times you'll see that and nobody knew how quick it was going to be. Nobody knew Amazon was going to be able to execute their business plan so efficiently, so quickly, right? I don't think too many people saw that. Clearly, a lot of people did because a lot of people invested a lot of money and pushed Amazon's share price up a lot, expecting that to be the case. But there were a lot of people that didn't see that happening. Like, I don't think anyone saw free 2-day shipping from Prime becoming profitable so quickly for Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
I just think people thought, okay, that's going to be something that they do for a little bit to get people using it. And then eventually they're going to go to, okay, it's actually 3 to 5 day shipping now, right?
So I looking at those guys and being like, you are a dumb guy who's been in the industry for 40 years makes me feel like I'm going, I know better than you, Mr. Experienced person.
Well, it's all about their ability to adapt to new circumstances.
But that's the thing. I feel like in that moment, I'm saying I'm smarter than somebody who's been in the industry for 40 years. Mm. But people in the industry contradict themselves all the time. And it's like, I just get this.
And that's the thing. You have to do your research and know, like, yeah, you've been doing this for 40 years, but you've been doing it wrong for 40 years.
Here's this regulatory environment that you were dealing with and it has now changed.
Yeah.
Or here's this, the advent of these, cloud computing and, new like purchase interfaces online and new, both advantages and threats and like people's, clients' financial security and our like system security and this, that, and the other. Here's Exhibit A, whatever, Sears, not adapting to these features. Here's Amazon building themselves atop them. And, here's all these cats commentating, and you can kind of, I guess, and I'm nowhere near as savvy as our friend Frank, but I can see the machinery working.
Whoa,
literally
don't
and figuratively. Like, kind of trying to take into account as many factors as you can and making an informed decision or an informed investment. And even if you do all that work, the market's a cruel mistress.
Yeah. So I've been getting some FaceTime with the big cats at the company at which I work, including the company owner, right? Even in just brief interactions and meetings and stuff, but I'm in a role now where I get to talk to high-level management, and I will shoehorn in questions to get a different perspective. And I'll explain it like this: in that before I got into like technology in college, computers to me were sort of like magic. Like, I know that they work in a logical way, but like in my head, if I were to think of the inside of a computer, I just see like gray static in my mind. Now, I mean, I studied all the way down to like I studied logic tables and Karnaugh maps, which is first year engineering shit. And then it talked about how registries handle data. And so I understand the inner workings, and it all makes at least a base level sense to me.
Functional.
Right. When I think of business now and management and corporate level interaction between like two major companies, third party vendors and shit, I see that static in my mind. So one thing that I have found, and I've said it to Genevieve quite a bit because she is very creative, these ideas that she'll come up with inner artistic expression and even in situational stuff are so far out the box that it literally never would have occurred to me in 100 years. But if inside the box, I'm a stud, right? Anything that I know is within the bounds of possibility. I can connect in a new and novel way that makes sense and it can employ it. But I have a really hard time seeing outside the box for things that I've never even thought of, which I don't know if that's remarkable or totally normal, whatever. So I'll get into these meetings with big cats at the company and I will shoehorn in mulling overs that I've had in my head. Why don't we do this? Why don't we talk like this? Why don't we do that? And I had one interaction. I felt like I was putting the guy on the spot. I'm like, listen, I'm not saying you're wrong or anything. I'm trying to learn. This is how I learn, like a big dumb robot. And holy shit, are things not the way that I thought they were, and then now it feels kind of overwhelming, right? It's just like, I don't even know where to starting to understand those kinds of business decisions. It's bananas to me.
The number one place that most people look to is business school.
Yeah.
It sucks, especially when you're going part-time, but it teaches you. It really does. A lot of people are like, oh, those guys getting their MBAs, they're a bunch of, guys who don't know anything about how to actually run a business. I hear that a lot. I always hear that the most from like restaurant owners and whatnot. And like the number one thing in the restaurant industry is that most restaurants go out of business.
2 out of 3, I think.
Yeah. And it's
within
like
the first year.
Within 6 months, I thought.
Yeah. And it's like, well, clearly you know nothing about business and, you just think, I know how to do this one thing. But like you said, like you could know your industry and how to do your thing in and out. But if you don't know how business actually operates, then you're probably going to be boned in the end game.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I know what you mean, because there's definitely a lot of stuff that I did not understand before I went to business school and started to look through that lens as to how companies were doing, which is something they teach you in business school. Is like, okay, that's a lot of what business school is. You look at case studies of successful businesses and failed businesses, and you say, how do you prevent yourself from failing, and how do you emulate the ones that are succeeding? I've kind of always been under the mindset that you should not emulate necessarily the ones that are succeeding in every way possible, because then you're always going to be playing second fiddle to them. But you need to find out what created their situation to enable them to outpass their competition, not necessarily just copy what they're doing, because then you're just them, but not as good.
This is part of the reason I enjoy talking about this shit with you, Frank, because I'll ask you a question and you give me an earnest answer to the best of your ability. I was having an interaction with somebody, with another organization I'm involved with. We were coming up with like a document to address behavior unbecoming to a member of our organization. And they had drafted it up this letter. And I was like, this looks good to me, but maybe we should send it to like a lawyer who's a friend of the organization to make sure that we're not opening ourselves up to some sort of legal whatever exposure. And the response I got back was, it doesn't open us up to legal exposure. And I was like, well, why wouldn't we just send the email? And it led to this whole conversation. And ultimately I determined the answer was that the person I was talking to had a job where they interact with HR drafting similar documents in their day-to-day. And our letter and our business structure closely matches the situation that he's familiar with. So he's confident, so confident, in fact, that it gives us no additional exposure, that even the minimal amount of effort that it would take to send a letter to a lawyer friend to read it over is not worth the amount of effort to be
That guy's an idiot.
I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
I sit literally next to my department's like legal compliance team, and I have both made assumptions like that, but heard similar assumptions from far more qualified people, and have watched them get shut down with very cogent reasoning that no amount of experience outside that field can foresee.
So, and that's sort of where I was coming from. But my ultimate point was, I asked a question, why? And the answer I got back was because, right? And
No, the answer you got back was because I know more than you.
No. They didn't even go there.
No.
They just said it wasn't. I said, could this be? This might be a thing, and they go, it's not. And I'm like, that is not how you speak to an adult, right? You say that to a child, like, why can't I eat rocks for dinner?
That the direct message,
pets.
yeah, the direct message was because, but the implication is because I know more than you and I know what I'm doing and I say that this is the way it is.
Right.
And I mean that, yeah, it's dumb. That's when you say like, how do these businesses like run themselves into the ground so consistently? It's because people think like that, because people don't seek the advice of experts that actually know what they're talking about and assume that they know everything. See, one of the reasons that I tend not to get blindsided by shit like that is because
you know everything.
No, I don't know everything. And I recognize that I don't know anything. And I use my stupidity like a sonar, where I bounce the stupidity off of everything wrong until I find the only thing that's left is the right thing.
Right.
So, you know, like I would never do anything like that without consulting. Like, I know nothing about HR. Right. Or like employment laws or anything like that. So if I ever had to do anything, yeah, you bet your ass I would be finding myself a competent advisor, whether that is legal or, you know, compliance, HR or other, that I would be saying like, am I doing this right? Because I no fucking clue what I'm doing. And I really don't want to screw this up and, you know, expose a nuclear fucking time bomb of bullshit that could open its can on me.
Yeah. So
20 years later or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting because I told that story to my coworkers and I just sort of shooting the shit. I'm like, this is why I get up your guys' asses all the time. Like, we'll have devs, if you don't know that I'm a QA person, quality assurance, and I break my devs software all the time. And over the course of a couple of years, we've developed really good relationships. And they're like, I don't know how you figure out how to break this stuff that you've never seen before, but you do. I'm like, yeah. But when they have a problem with like some big system, a system I don't know anything about, I'll be like, talk to me about it. I don't know what you're talking about, but I can help you figure it out, right? Because all they do is they talk to me. They'll be like, okay, this system pulls this data from the database and then uses this database information to talk to the third party's system where we're getting an error kicked up. And I'm like, how do you know our database is up? And they're like, well, how do you know? You know what I mean? Like, they're like, oh, it's up. But how do you know? And it's like, I
You force them to explain how their shit works.
Exactly. And that's what I'm getting to. Like, I force people to explain through their assumptions, because then they find that they don't actually know it, right? And I think it's this is the part where I try to maintain really good personal relationships with the people I do that with in a professional setting, in that I don't win by having you admit that you made a mistake or anything like that. I have no interest in that. I win by us all putting out a good product. But that whole technique sort of bleeds over into my personal interactions. And that's what I saw in this email. How do you know? Like, how do you know? And it was like, I know because I know. And I'm like, well, that's not a fucking explanation. Right. So, but I don't know. This is why I love being part of a team. Because at some point it's just like, let's talk to our business guy, Frank, blah, 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 blah. You know, and I'm like, let me try to break it. All right, I can't break it. We might be all right. You know, I don't know. Anybody else have something else like that? Any thoughts from our two quiet party members over here, Chris and Genevieve? You writing fan fiction over there, erotic vampire fan fiction?
Yes.
Okay.
Nice.
Make sure you sell it under the TGNA brand. I want to be associated with that.
Precisely. Well, gee, you consistently remark to me that we think almost totally differently in a lot of ways.
Yes. What do you mean by that, though?
What do you mean? What do I mean? You have said these words to me. You just acknowledge that I say them. So I don't know. Maybe expand on that.
Well, just like doing simple tasks, you get upset when I ask you a question because I ask like, okay, well, you know, is this what most people do to, I don't know, clean counters or something? And then because whatever assumptions you have or thought process, you think it's like an obvious answer, but to me, I think of all the options that I can possibly think of. and they all seem not as likely, but still possible in my mind. So I want to know, what is the best way, or what is the right way, the correct way? Like, what do you think, instead of choosing the option that is the most obvious or most likely?
Well, I've discovered through interacting with Genevieve that any level of possibility of something occurring then makes it a valid possibility, right? So if we've wiped down a counter 1,000 times with a bleach wipe and it doesn't stain it, but there's, you know, a 1/1,000,000% chance that through making another pizza on the stovetop, it oxidized whatever the countertop is made of, and it may stain this time. In her mind, that is a valid concern, right? And it's like we end up thinking through things so differently that, you know, I sort of operate in confidence levels. I mean, it's like really probably not going to cause a problem, so let's just fucking do it, unless it's really important. But then again, I can't make really engaging, interesting art pieces, and you can. So when I think of somebody effectively thinking outside the box, I think of you. And you've done art through a number of different mediums. Like you made a mask, a Star-Lord mask. You've done paintings. Mm-hmm. You designed a number of different logos.
Ours.
Yeah, I mean,
which kudos.
All over the place. So I was sort of interested if you guys run into a different kind of interaction with, well, anybody really, because the three of you are musicians, right? And you're an artist and I'm a dork, so maybe you guys run into this in your day-to-day where you're talking to somebody and you're like, we just think about things really differently.
I think there are parallels when you're trained even only a little bit or even poorly as a musician or in some sphere of art in general. It's I think proven to some extent scientifically to alter one's thinking and to improve many aspects of how one's brain functions. Having that creative angle helps in even day-to-day bullshit. If you ask me to really give you an example, it'd be difficult because I've been a musician since I was pretty young. I think there's something to that, for sure.
Well, I think I can give you an example. It is related to design and artwork. For my job, I recently had to make a flyer that we're going to mail out to zip codes around us. And we're going through, me and the doctor, like I drafted up something. I thought it looked good, maybe a few touches here and there. But then she came in and basically suggested that we put other information in there that would make the design not only clunky, but in my opinion, just reading it as someone who doesn't have like a medical degree, for someone to look at that who also doesn't have any medical background or who wouldn't have any, it's confusing. So it makes sense for her, for another doctor or nurse or something to read it and be like, oh, that's something we see all the time. Does anyone in the room here know what spinal stenosis is? I say maybe Jake.
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, that's
I've heard that before.
when you get the cramps.
I thought it was when you get the shits in your spine.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Nice.
I got it mixed up.
The old spine shits.
Spinal shit.
But that was something she wanted to put on the flyer, and I was like, I don't know if that's gonna.
Do you want
like,
to put
it would be-
spinal shits on the flyer?
Yes. Oh man, I wish. No.
Genevieve and the spinal shits.
It sounds like a great
It's when
band
you
name.
This Sunday.
Really?
Yeah.
It's when you're thinking of too much bullshit and it all gets generated in your head and goes through your spine and out your
That
ass.
only happens to robots.
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 Rowers' butts.
Ah, yes.
They have surprising glutes.
Wait, robots
Glutes?
with rower butts?
Rubber butts? Rubber buns?
Kill me now.
And liquor?
We're all dead to me.
But anyway, that was just a situation where she's thinking like, these medical terms need to go in there, or these things need to be in this flyer so people see it and then they associate it with us and they come to the chiropractic office. And I'm thinking, well, you're adding this extra thing. It's making this list now like instead of 5 things sort of evenly spaced and nice looking, it's now like 6 and sort of too full and awkwardly spaced. And then like she wanted to add other pictures in there that would have made it look more full and kind of awkward and too many words. And it was just, we kind of had to go back and forth on it and figure it out. And eventually, like, I think we were both happy with it. I was okay with it. I still think it was a little much, but decent enough. And we made it to the, I think we took spinal stenosis out because we both eventually were like, yeah, I don't think people are going to get that one.
I mean, at the end of the day, this is all about the advantages of collaboration, right?
Right.
People having different backgrounds and experiences. I think if you take the time, especially when you're growing up, to cultivate some type of artistic pursuit or several, even if you don't have to, be some like, next level performer or composer or this, that, the other. But just by getting proficient at something, it just unlocks ways of thinking and skill sets that are difficult to unlock in other ways. I think some people are naturals at that sort of thing, but never actually cultivate it. And then they have like almost like an uncanny luck when it comes to moving up in the business world, right? But they might not have fully realized some type of potential because they never were given the chance to pick up a guitar or something growing up. I can't quantify that. It's sort of just a sense I have. And I think to some extent there's some data out there. But I don't know. I think it's helped me out a lot. I reference it a job and that sort of thing in job interviews and whatnot. I frequently tell people that I, play my keyboard and mouse like musical instrument. I'm typing, I'm memorizing hotkeys and stuff. And sometimes with whenever I have to do something kind of tedious and repetitive that I can reduce to mostly shortcuts, I take pride in how well I memorize them and how quickly I can do them while the computer still recognizes what I'm telling it to do. So you know what I mean? So just little shit like that has kind of paid dividends already. And people are like, hey Jake, do you know the shortcut for this? I'm like, yeah, it's control shift
It's a grenade.
tab. You put one thumb up your butthole and sacrifice your firstborn.
And a grenade in your mouth.
A grenade in your mouth and pull a pin.
It's funny. I have a buddy from college who last time I saw him, he straight up asked me, he's like, how do you anticipate like what people are wanting in any given moment, right? And I didn't realize through interacting with Genevieve, I didn't realize how differently people think at an overall base level. I knew interests were different and things like that, but I spent a lot of my time in college being like, why are people acting like this and getting frustrated? But I've sort of, as I've grown through my 20s, learned that people just do things different because it's the way it is. And anyway, he's like, how do you anticipate what somebody wants or what they're feeling? And I walked him through a set of steps that I take. And be like, well, this person is in this situation. This is what they're working towards. This might be what they're feeling nervous about. This is who they're interacting with. Here's like the authority levels that they're touching on. And this is how I take a guess. I think my ultimate point is that I'm learning, I'm of the belief, the nature versus nurture argument, how much I think it's like 95% nurture. Like, you got a basic platform, but you can do so much with yourself if you find the right system and begin to learn. And like, I found that all this shit, all these questions, even interacting with people, there's a YouTube video for. You fucking go on YouTube and then you can be more robot than Frank could ever dream. And Frank will work for you. That's my dream.
Frank work for you.
Yeah.
That's my opposite dream. My nightmare.
Have you pay him well enough?
My opposite dream.
Not nightmare.
Gosh, AKA nightmare.
Not real life.
Yeah.
I want to drive to work and have Frank call me sir, and then drive home, have Frank call me daddy, and then I hang him up, hang him on his charging pod.
One of those is my dream.
The charging pod.
All right, everybody, we got to take a quick break. We'll catch you on the flip side. am Lord. I have heard you calling in the dark. Anybody remember that song? That
No.
banger
No.
from Catholic school?
No.
I'm aroused.
There were a lot of bangers in Catholic school, from what I
Ooh.
hear
Whoa.
from the Pope.
Whoa.
Ah.
Okay.
Hey, molestation.
I thought we were talking about butt
Hooray.
bangers to save your virginity. Jesus. I've asked my manager to start listening to us again because the last episode that he listened to was that Touch the Cow subreddit. We were talking, yeah. I was like, oh no, and he's gonna. I feel like he'll listen to this one, and I'm like, let me skip a little further in because maybe the beginning is where it's weird, and then he's gonna get to butt bangers and be like, all right, I can't ever talk to Bill again.
Butt Banger 16 now on sale with director's commentary.
Yeah, see, this is where we bang the butt.
We are longtime fans.
I wish we had like a big gong, like shaped like a butt, and we hit it with like or something, like a real radio show.
Yeah.
I love how you
Yeah.
tried to like kind of steer it toward moving on, and then we just right back,
right back into the butt.
to the butt
just spiked
banging.
right back into the sand.
What?
With
In the
visuals
butt.
and
I said what? In the butt.
So I was talking to our CEO about
Butt banging.
the the Call of Duty 4 thing and how if you as a game company, if you play it right, you can have the community essentially do free work for you all the way from quality assurance testing through like beta play to research and development, i.e. allowing mods that you later steal and pay for. And I was like, yeah, I run a podcast with my friends. He's like, oh, do ya? I was like, oh, wait, you already know about this? He goes, yeah. I was like, okay. I was like, have you ever listened? He goes, no. I thought about it, but then I thought, I don't think I want to know you like that. And I was like, you know what? Okay, fair
That's a
enough.
good point.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
He goes, I love you just the way you are. And I was like, does that mean I'm on the razor's edge?
Aw.
Oh, well.
Wait,
All
is
right.
he your daddy?
Oh, my God. Why did you do that?
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Frank,
Bill.
you have got hands on a couple of pretty primo games. Which one do you want to start with?
I'm okay to start with any of them. We've already talked about Assassin's Creed. All right, so we can do Forza Horizon 4 or... which I actually may have talked about that. I don't remember. I've had it for a few
Not
weeks
really.
now.
Let's do
Black Ops?
Battle Royale for Black Ops, yeah.
Well, I have played all of major aspects of Black Ops at this point, so we don't
really?
have to just
So
focus on
just
Black
go
Ops.
Hamtown on Black Ops.
Yeah. So I somehow every year end up... I shouldn't say that. I'm not a huge fan of the Call of Duty series, all right? Despite owning a large portion of it, I'm mostly a fan of Treyarch. I think they've done a great job from Black Ops, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, and Black Ops 4. All four of those games are really well done, I think. I have bought pretty much all four of them solely for the zombies mode. However, they've also thrown in some other really good stuff in that since Black Ops, the original, and also way back in the day, for those that have played this long ago, World at War, Call of Duty World at War.
A lot of people... especially kids younger than me, as kids are since I'm an adult, that's their favorite one. They say that's the best Call of Duty in memory.
Yeah.
Modern Warfare.
And
No, you said World at War. That's
yeah,
what I meant.
mm-hmm. And they might. I wouldn't say that's an invalid opinion, but my point being that I'm not a person that's going to sit around and buy every Call of Duty game. I've pretty much only recently bought the Black Ops ones, and once again, mostly I bought Black Ops 3 for the zombies. I bought Black Ops 2 for the zombies, and I bought, however, Black Ops 4 for the Battle Royale mode. I've talked before about PUBG and Fortnite and how much I played those games. Those two being for probably most of 2018 what I played. Actually, since the end of 2017, Fortnite came out in December 2017. I played that for like 3 weeks until PUBG came out. There's like a very short amount of time from that Fortnite was out until PUBG came out. And then I pretty much exclusively played PUBG for about 2 or 3 months, and then eventually, after not delivering, as you mentioned earlier, with PUBG not delivering the updates and the fixes that everyone expected, went back to Fortnite.
I'd like to interrupt, sort of side note, but if anyone's familiar with Ohio State and their marching band, they recently have a video or put up a video of them doing a formation where they made like 3 stick figures on the field and had them do the flossing dance. So
Fortnite dance.
Yeah.
Marching band.
Excellent.
just
Hopefully
putting that
Black
out
Ops
there.
doesn't destroy the world like Fortnite has.
I don't think it can because it's not free. Unpopular opinion. As someone that has played a lot of Fortnite and enjoys it and thinks that it's a great game, it's only popular because it's free. 100%, the game would not be nearly as popular as it is if it was a $60 or even $40 title. But it's not, it's free, so everybody that has anything that can play it will play it because there's a huge player base and it is a good game. Anyway, I wanted something that wasn't so focused. So Fortnite, as I've mentioned before, the main focus and how you actually get good at that game is by getting good at building. And I just never really felt like practicing or getting good at it. It just didn't interest me. I was playing a battle royale game because I wanted to play a shooter, not because I wanted to play some sort of strategy game where I have to outbuild my opponents. It still was a fun element, and like I said, I still enjoy the game. I don't play it much anymore, but I wanted something. I always preferred PUBG to Fortnite, and I only really played Fortnite because all my friends played Fortnite, and they were really good, so I could get a lot of wins. And they didn't want to play PUBG, and I didn't want to play by myself. So Call of Duty announces they're going to do their Battle Royale mode, which they call Blackout. And after looking into it, I thought, yeah, this is going to look really good. And then I looked into the Zombies mode that they were going to put out for Black Ops 4, and it also looked extremely good. And they absolutely delivered.
What's the zombies mode called? Black Boners?
It's called Zombies.
Wait, what?
Zomboners.
Okay.
Yes.
I went with Blackout and I mixed it with Zomboners.
Yeah.
You want to see how to construct a really good joke that no one appreciates or laughs at?
Ooh.
That's the opposite of a good joke.
That was bordering on non-MIDI.
What?
Non-comedy.
Coinage. Richard Evans of Red Letter Media. It's not just a joke that falls flat. It's a joke that actually lowers your interest and makes you slightly more upset than you were.
Okay.
But it was meant as a joke. Like, you sit there, your deadpan expression, the failed joke happens, and you frown a little bit.
Okay.
That's what that was.
Well, at least I did something.
You did get a reaction. You got gasps. Not necessarily the surprise gasps, but more like really more grunts than gasps. Like
Grunts, oofs, groans.
yeah.
That's just a sigh.
Glowers, basically G words that aren't positive.
Yes.
So you played Zombarinos and you played...
I mean, I've played all game modes, so difference off the bat for someone like you who is very concerned about having a single story campaign, there isn't much of one in the game. You get a bunch of single player experiences, I guess you could call them, where you play through different characters in whatever order you choose for the game. And I have not done all of them, and you have to piece together the story of Black Ops 4. Right? So from what I gathered so far, there's this really rich woman who seems to want to fix the world because of effects of climate change and other things. And so she hires this crack team of operators to go do a bunch of shit that she needs to get done.
What?
I'm worried about the climate, so I'm going to hire people to murder other people.
Yeah, essentially.
That's how I solve problems.
It's a little strange, but like I said, I've
Bill.
only played like 2 or 3 of those, and they're like, they're pretty good. But just like most of Black Ops, like I will say actually, Treyarch in general, their campaigns have been pretty fucking solid. So I'm thinking eventually like this will all start to make more sense as I'm able to put the pieces together. It is interesting because I want to know where it's going. So it's clearly well written that it has gained my interest. It's just that my friends are losers and they always play Xbox, so there is never the time where I get on Xbox and they're not on looking for me to play with them. So I don't have much of an like the only time I ever get to play this mode is when too many of my friends are online. I'm like, yeah, you guys go play the multiplayer or Blackout or whatever you want to play, and I'll go like play the single player thing so I finally can get through it. But I digress. I'll focus on Blackout first. So one thing that they did that I really appreciate, they used a lot of old popular Black Ops maps in the whole Battle Royale map. So they're in PUBG and Fortnite, they have different named locations that you can drop at, right? And that's where, you can drop there and there's loot there. And generally in the named locations, there's going to be more stuff than in like the random buildings in some part that's in the corner of the map. Well, they took old Call of Duty maps and they just plopped them in the middle, and they kind of pieced together this map out of old popular maps that everybody liked.
Because the older maps were smaller.
Yes.
Dude, that's so cool.
It is really cool. And it's really interesting when when you first start playing the game and you drop somewhere that you've played the multiplayer map of 5-6 years ago, and you're like, oh my God, I remember this map. I know right where everything is. I know where all the buildings are. I know what they look like, all that shit. It's really cool.
That's dope. Do they keep like the weapon spawn points the same too?
Well, in multiplayer, there aren't weapon spawn points, right?
Oh, right. Okay.
You start with weapons, and you get to pick the whole Call of Duty create a class thing, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's different now, but it's really interesting to see them, but know like how they work in multiplayer, and then have to kind of adapt, like take that knowledge and adapt it, because strategically, Blackout is very different than multiplayer, right? It's you get killed, you have a small chance, well, not a small chance, but a small time frame in which someone on your team can revive you, and if you're done, you're out for the game. And then obviously if your whole team dies, then you're out for the game. But it's so well balanced. I mean, one, you get Call of Duty in general has just great gameplay mechanics, right? You move and it feels like you're moving, right? But it doesn't feel like you're gliding like a lot of first-person shooters tend to feel like.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like you're some fucking big, nasty mech robot that's like lumbering around, like always out of breath, and just like the earth shakes on every step that you take.
I got the sense in a number of Call of Duties that I was sort of like on rails. Like I would run, and as I'm running, I couldn't turn aggressively at all. Is it still sort of like that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you have to also remember, right? If you're at full sprint as a person, you can't turn an immediate 90 degrees. There is going to be a little bit of a... Yeah. But I know what you mean. I did get that sense. I think that was more the Modern Warfare games where I got that sense. Well, like I said, you had that feeling where you're gliding.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Not necessarily running. You don't get that in this.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And the weapons are just very well designed, very well balanced. There's a good variety of them. There's a good variety of attachments that you could pick up. I really like the healing system. So you have like 3 different levels of stuff, just like in all of the other. I should say just like in PUBG. So in PUBG, you can pick up bandages, first aid kits, and med kits. And that's essentially what you can pick up in Call of Duty. The difference in dynamic is in PUBG, everything except the med kit can only heal you up to 75% of your health, and then you need either painkillers, an energy drink, or an adrenaline shot to heal you the rest of the way.
Wait a minute. Is the energy drink Monster?
It looks like Red Bull, but it's not.
Oh, because wait, no, which one's the gamer fuel? It's clearly Monster and Doritos.
Mountain Dew.
Yes. It's Mountain Dew is the gamer fuel.
Oh, you're right. Well, then the game's broken if you don't have gamer fuel in it.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, so in Blackout, the Battle Royale for Black Ops, it's any healing item can get you up to your full health. But the top tier healing item, the trauma kit, can actually give you an extra 50 health.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you find one of those, you can kind of make the decision like, I'm not hurt at all, I'm at full health, but do I want to get the extra 50 health right now?
Mm-hmm.
You know. Also, you can pick up armor, right? Obviously decreasing the damage that you take from other things, but I think it all comes down to the balance that they have of the weapons, how they spawn on the map, and how many people are on the map. So another thing, Fortnite and PUBG are all 100 people per map. This is only 88, and it scales well with the map, and they keep it moving.
An odd number to choose.
Yeah, I guess that's what they found.
I mean, I feel it's not really a significant difference between 100 and 88.
No.
So and as odd a number as it is, makes me think maybe they made a conscious decision to do it. So
it changed a couple of times as they got statistics. Basically, like they just looked at the data, right? And they had a week-long beta test. I think, I don't remember. I didn't pre-order the game. I bought it after it came out, as you should. So I never got to play the beta, but I did watch some professional streamers play the beta and listen to their comments. They just like that they think it had and I agree with them. It has a great pace to the game. So I talked about PUBG versus Fortnite. Fortnite's a much faster paced game. One thing, as people have gotten so much better at Fortnite, it's mostly the building aspect. Fortnite became a slower paced game because it became much more defensive as people got better at building. Building is an inherently defensive thing in Fortnite. So as people got better at building, the game became slower. Right. Because it's easier to play defense and build than it is to attack somebody. And Black Ops is moving away from that. There's really no defensive way that you can do, and the circles move so quickly that you're almost constantly on the move.
So when we're talking about building in Fortnite, you can actually cycle through I guess blueprints of like stairs or big walls made of wood or towers or whatever. And I think it's based on resources that you pick up as you go through the level. And then you see a big like light blue overlay, you hit your button and it begins to assemble it, and that can serve for stairs for you to run up, something to hide behind. It can absorb a rocket blow before the rocket kills you. And he's saying I think a lot of individuals hotkey it, so they take multiple keyboard key inputs and they have one key do it, so they can cycle really, really quickly, and it's become a big part of the game. Now, when you're saying the circle, the game map actually shrinks down the area. If you're caught outside the circle, you take damage until you die.
Correct.
But it's faster paced than both PUBG's circle and Fortnite's.
Right. So at the end of Blackout, the last 3 circles have, I think, at most 20 or 30 seconds, and I think between the last 2 circles it's like 10 seconds as like one sets into place and it shows you where the next one is. You have like 10 seconds before that circle starts shrinking down into the new one.
Whoa.
Yeah. So you gotta move. It's just like I said, it's constantly, you're not sitting down and waiting, setting up defenses and wondering trying to figure out where everybody is. It's you're here, you got to go over there. You got 10 seconds to figure out how to get there. Go. And that keeps it really interesting because in PUBG, you spend a lot of time and this is one of the reasons why I love PUBG and why I really wish they would either fix it or somebody else would make something that is similar but runs well. It's like a long-term cat and mouse game, and a game, if you're going to win, is going to take you 45 minutes, right? And it's very much, you want to stay hidden, you want to know where everybody else is, and you don't always want to engage in PUBG. And Black Ops, for my money, you almost, if you see somebody and you have a chance, they're not super far away from you where it doesn't make any sense, and even if they are, you pretty much want to engage them, and you want to try and either push them away from you because you're hitting them more than they are, or draw them closer to you.
So is it a game where if somebody sees you and attacks you first, you have no ability to turn and respond?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. Because that engagement scenario, I think, is for me where a lot of games need to find a good balance.
Yeah.
Right.
And I personally think that they found a really good balance, because if you are in a really open spot and the other person is in a really good observational point, they can definitely, I shouldn't say that they won't kill you before you have a chance to respond, but you're going to be fighting real hard to get back to zero, right? And I think that's the way it should be. If you're running through an open field and somebody else has a nice high ground with good cover, yeah, you're at a major disadvantage. Is it impossible for you to die or for you to survive? No, but it's highly unlikely.
Right.
And it's tough to balance that. because just, I mean, the definition of balancing, it's like either most of them swing too far in favor of making it easy to respond, and therefore like whoever engages first is bound to lose because there's all these advantages to reacting instead of being proactive. But then most games tend to swing too far in the direction of, if you got the jump on somebody, you win 99 out of 100 times,
right?
Even if they're way better than you at the game. And I am okay with that for the most part. That's kind of how PUBG is, especially in solo mode with PUBG. If you peek out and somebody knows that you're there, they can just one-shot headshot you, unless you have like a level 3 helmet, and it'll probably take you down, and you're done.
Well, and, I mean, to be fair, PUBG was built off of Arma, the Arma engine, and Arma is basically, we've talked about it, it's a warfighter simulator.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And that's why some people love it so much. Is it's very strategic, it's very tactical, it's very like I said, cat and mouse. Like, it's how you would want to play like a survival game if you were one of 100 people out to kill each other, right?
Right.
You want to be careful. You want to check your areas that you see around you. You want to play conservatively. Black Ops and Fortnite, well, Fortnite so much in the beginning, not so much anymore, reward aggression.
Yeah. So, and
which makes it a fun game.
Right. My ultimate point was, it's not necessarily fun to play a game in real warfare style, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, in real life, you're like, the goal, it's war. It's not fun.
Yeah.
You shoot somebody with a gun in real life, they're at a big disadvantage if they didn't know you were there. But in gameplay, if you get smoked because somebody knows a good hidey hole and you can't turn around and react.
Hidey hole?
Yeah, hidey hole.
Hidey hole.
Yeah, and it's Call of Duty does not, like, Blackout does not have that at all.
No.
There's no hidey holes. There's no magic place where you can sit and hide and nobody has an advantage. I will say, just one thing that pisses me off in general, there's no fire mode selector, so you can't circle between fully automatic and single shot. And it just really pisses me off when, like, I'm trying to hit somebody from a pretty big but I mean, once again, it goes back to balancing. If you want to shoot somebody from really far away, you need a gun designed to do that, and if you don't have it, then you should wait until you're close enough to accurately engage them.
So if you quick release the trigger, does it still fire multiple shots?
It's pretty sensitive.
Okay.
So it's very tough to release just one. You can do it, but you're probably gonna fire at least 2.
I've been playing a lot of Counter-Strike gun game.
Mm-hmm.
You cycle through different guns in the game for gun game, and Counter-Strike's an old shooter, but that is one thing that I have found. A lot of guns, if you right-click on the mouse, it'll change it so you get different advantages. So there's like a USP with a silencer, and because it has the silencer, you don't show up on the enemy's radar when you fire a shot, whereas typically if they can hear it, you do. But if you take it off, you get a damage bonus. Small, but you get it, right? And it's not really realistic or whatever, but it's fine. But there's this shitty little dumper machine pistol that only holds 12 rounds, and it shoots like, you're shooting spitballs at somebody through a straw. And it's only got 12 rounds and you only carry 24. So I'm like, I just want to do one shot. And if you don't click it like really fast, it always shoots 2. It's so goddamn frustrating. Yeah. But it is what it is. I have to get good, right? So that's what this sounds like. You got to get good.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just, and like I said, it balances it well, right? You need, if you're far away from somebody and you don't have like a DMR or a sniper rifle, like, just don't shoot at them. Wait, and it... I think it really lends to the whole idea that if you're good at the game, you're going to do well, and there's less luck involved, right?
Right.
There is a little bit of luck involved is at the very, very beginning, where if you land, and this happens to me all the time, I swear to God, I have the worst luck at this game. If you land somewhere and you're running around and you don't find a gun and somebody else has one, what the fuck are you supposed to do? Like, you're basically just dead. You don't have any way to defend yourself. That happens to me so often. It's so, none of my friends ever have this problem, but we'll be running around and it'll be like 2 minutes and I'll be like, I still don't have a gun, guys. Like, what the fuck? Do you see any? And they'll be like, oh yeah, there's one over here. You can come get it. It's like, all right, fine. But like, so many times I just die because I don't have a gun.
Can you pick up a heavy rock?
No.
What?
Yeah.
Do you have like a knife? Do you spawn in?
Fists?
Yeah. Have you ever
Give him a
successfully?
Yes, but it was a fist battle. The other person did not have a gun.
I had Sean, friend of the podcast, come down and visit me a couple weeks ago, and he played Dinosaur D-Day.
Oh my goodness.
And he could not figure out how to cycle through his weapons, and he fist fought a Dino Nazi, and it was an epic battle. He lost.
He murdered a dinosaur as a human.
He lost the first one. The second one, he punched a dinosaur to death. It was tremendous.
Still have not figured out what the dead rabbit is supposed to mean. Like,
So that's the sort of thing that would make my head explode. How does it not totally turn you off of the game? It just does it happen? It doesn't happen too much.
No, yeah, it doesn't happen very well. It happens to me more often than most people. But I mean, it's really not that big of a deal when it happens when you're playing in a team of 4, because if you're good at the game and you're playing with people that you're friends with, you're going to land together and they're going to be able to watch each other's back. So if somebody runs up on me and I don't have a gun, one of my friends is going to come by and smoke his ass and then get me up. And if you're playing by yourself, you just start a new game, and it's unlikely it'll happen to you again.
How long does it take to get back into a new game?
2 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, it sucks. I just died immediately because I couldn't find a gun. Next game, move right on.
Yep.
And you're in good shape. And the player base is huge because it's Call of Duty, so it's like, you don't have to worry about that ever. But yeah, I mean, it's what everybody was kind of looking for out of a battle royale game.
I'm stunned that I've heard nothing negative about it from anyone anywhere.
It's well done. Yeah.
Is there in-game chat?
I always play in a party, so I wouldn't I think there's like voice proximity chat maybe.
Okay.
But I've never heard anything because I'm always in a party.
Okay, that's good, because a lot of that shit can get really
Toxic? Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
yeah.
I'm sure it's a different beast on PC, too, than it is on Xbox.
A little Britney Spears in there.
Yeah.
You're toxic. I'm slipping. So is it released to PC yet?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many games do you think you've played of that?
I can tell you I've played 5 solo games.
Oh, okay.
Which is that goes to show you how often I am on when none of my friends are on.
Right.
And I probably played 50 either duo or 4-player games, maybe 100. I don't know. It's a lot. I mean, sometimes the games last 2 minutes, sometimes they last 20 minutes.
What's the highest you finished, do you think?
Oh, we've won several times.
Mm-hmm.
So
What do they call it then? Don't you get chicken dinner in Fortnite?
you get chicken dinners in Fortnite, victory royales, or no, you get chicken dinners in PUBG, victory royales in Fortnite. You just win in
Black Ops?
Yeah,
Why don't they have the president like parachute in on a flight suit, mission accomplished?
Kevin Spacey.
Yo, that'd be pretty cool.
He was I don't remember which Call of Duty, but he was like an NPC, like a story character in one of the Call of Duties.
As Kevin Spacey, or
Yes.
No.
Yep. No. Yes.
Yes,
He was.
it was
really-
Kevin Spacey as Kevin Spacey, and he had like 2 of his
Excellent.
14-year-old boys with him.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Whoa. Hey, come on. That was, I don't
Look,
know.
if people are assholes, I'm gonna like double down on making them be assholes.
Whoa.
So, Chris, are you gonna pick this game up? This seems like something.
I actually played the zombies.
Yeah. Well, let's
Yeah.
just roll on to Zomboids. Since we covered. I mean, do you have any questions about the Blackout? It sounds pretty
No, I'm gonna play
straightforward.
it soon because one of my friends that I hang out with pretty regularly, she has it and like a 1,000,000-inch 4K TV, so I'm gonna play it some more there.
Nice.
Yeah, highly recommend. I mean, if you're on the fence about picking up the game, it's to me it's worth $60, right? I would say if you're on the fence, pick it up. And if you're patient and you want to wait for a while for it to drop in price, it's not necessarily an invalid thing to do.
So, what did you both think of the Zomboids?
Loved it.
I thought it was a great time.
Is it like the same exact setup as before? You're like running around a building. You got to unlock stuff with money. They're crawling. Blah, 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 blah,
Yep.
blah, blah.
So one of the things that they came out in Black Ops 3 that I liked, but it didn't really hit home. I kind of think they could have skipped it. Was they have like all these different elixirs that you can create and make that give you power-ups and whatnot, and then they have these different power-ups that you can kind of pick around and then kind of create like how do you kind of like a create a class for zombies instead of multiplayer where you kind of pick how you want to play. They fleshed it out a lot better in
Aha.
Black Ops 4.
Fleshed it out.
Yep. Zombies, flesh, eat flesh. Yeah.
I thought we were going for a masturbation joke because we do all the time.
True.
Yeah, but that's so inappropriate for this context.
Right. So we
Especially when there's zomboys.
fleshed it out.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
zomboners.
So you can start as a couple of different characters. So first of all, amazing map design. The first map that you play on, there's two different storylines for zombies, right? One of which you start in like an ancient, I don't know if it's Egyptian or Roman or something. You start in like an ancient gladiator arena, right? And then they release the zombies on you, and it's like all these people watching you.
Shit, I didn't play that one.
You played the Titanic one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there's another one.
That's cool as shit.
Yeah. And that's the map, and it's like really tight quartered because you like go underneath. I guess it's similar to like the Coliseum where there's like a bunch of dungeons and whatnot beneath the arena, and that's like the map, and it's like it's very tight quartered, so you got to watch yourself and you got to keep moving, and it creates a really fun gameplay experience. But it's also just in general like really cool visuals and well designed and well developed, all that stuff. What you would expect out of a game with a budget as large as it is. And then you've got this idea that you have like 4 different characters you could play as, each with different abilities and all that stuff. And different classes, so they all have like a different special ability, one of which is like Thor's hammer, where you can just start smashing people with the Thor's hammer. Another one's
Nice.
the Scepter of Ra, which you could start healing people with. Another one is like a shotgun and a sword, where you could just run around and fucking beat people with the machete or sword or whatever it is. I know it's pretty cool. It's like a different...
Which one's that one staff that's like a fucking laser beam that you could just
maybe
cut
that's
them
the
all in
Staff
half?
of Ra.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really, really interesting, and they've just developed it be so much more beyond you're in a room with zombies, shoot them, here are guns, you can buy more, and then there's the box. Like, it's just, there's so many different things you can do on each map that it takes a long time to get good at it. It takes a long time to figure everything out, and it provides you with a ton of replayability.
See, that's good because it's a fine line to walk between having a game that takes time to master and having it not be a trudge. You know what I mean? Like, there are games you're like, oh my God, I'm going to do this a million times before I get it, but it's like sort of more of the same. But to keep it engaging for that entire process is really an impressive feat. Chris, question to you. Did you find, playing this game, did you find anything particularly innovative or new or really fresh?
Well, with the zombie thing, and I haven't really played... I didn't play 3. But there was definitely like a logical progression through it and like a very light story, I suppose, where... Like, I remember playing World at War a lot. There really wasn't much of a story-ish.
Yeah, same thing
it.
in the original Black Ops. There really wasn't a story, but there is 100% a story now.
Yeah. So I found that interesting, and I thought that was a good take to keep you moving forward throughout the level, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and it gives you an incentive to actually not just sit around and kill zombies, but try and
that's
figure
what
out
it was.
the different stuff.
It was incentive.
Yeah.
There was incentive to go around and do this.
And there's more levels, apparently, I think, that you can unlock by getting through all the different stuff.
Sweet.
From what I understand, there's more levels that you can go beyond the Titanic and the Gladiator arena, where like once you unlock everything or something like that on the map, it'll give you another map to play.
Ooh.
Yeah. And you like learn about the different characters and the backstory and like how the zombies came and all that stuff. That's what I understand the whole thing is.
Too much information.
How did the Zambos come to be? Or
We
is
don't
this a
know.
spoiler? Oh. Ooh. Are they really zomboids, or are they like...
They
They're
seem
just
like it.
misunderstood.
Or are they like in the The Last of Us, where they're people who did too many mushrooms? Have you played The Last of Us?
No.
Because that was pretty spot on. That was a really good impression.
I don't like Alien from Alien.
All right. So, do you own it, Chris? You've been playing it somewhere
No,
else?
my friend has it, and it is on my Xbox though, because the updates of it are on my Xbox, because she's got a 4K TV but she's got the original Xbox, so I brought mine over so we can play it in 4K.
That's good thinking.
So yeah.
See, that's a great idea. So what me and my roommate do is we set each other's Xbox as our home Xboxes. So then we have access to play all the games that we buy, like
Collectively.
Yeah, collectively.
Yeah.
So
she got it as a disc, so I can't play it at home.
yeah.
So that's my only issue. But yeah,
So for instance, I bought Black Ops and Assassin's Creed. When Red Dead Redemption comes out, he's going to buy Red Dead Redemption 2. So then I'll have that, but I won't have to spend the extra $60 on it because I already spent $120 on games recently.
Dude, let's for 1 second talk about Red Dead Redemption 2. 120 gigs. It's looking like
massive.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
it's massive.
It's going to be unreal how big and how deep it is.
Whoa.
It's very immersive. Like you can do a lot of shit from
Yeah.
what I'm understanding. They it really sounds like they put in a lot of time to having a lot of just general interaction.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that they sort of teased at in the last iteration where like random events that would happen. You come across a stagecoach and have to either help or not. You could get attacked by like a puma or whatever. And they were neat ideas for random events to sort of give you more fun in just existing in the world, but they didn't really go anywhere. But I've heard now that that's going to change.
Yeah, they really improved a lot on all that.
in one specific way. Like if you murder somebody, like if you just
They'll remember it.
murder like a specific they will remember that. They took that from Telltale. No, if you murder somebody, their like daughter or something can come hunt you down later on in the game and be like, you killed my paw, and then you're like, oh, I guess I'm gonna kill you too.
And I remembered it.
But oh shit, I lost my train of thought. Lost it. Anyway,
It looks amazing too.
it does look really, really good. But we'll get there. When's that out? November?
No, next week.
Next week, yeah.
shit.
October
Yeah, it's coming out
26th, I believe.
so soon.
I got to quit my job before that.
For real.
So I can't fucking, yeah. Any other interesting things? Do we see any microtransactions on the new Call of Duty?
I think there
any
are.
loot
I don't
boxes?
know.
Gambling, you mean?
I can pretty much guarantee that there's microtransactions somewhere. There's also, of course, the 3 different editions that you can buy for either $60, $80, or $120. Of course, I bought the $60 edition, and I feel like I got a lot of stuff for it. I don't know what came in the $80 or $120 editions, but I'm not gonna pay for it, and that I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. Like I have a friend that did pay for the $120 edition, and I don't see anything compelling that he has that I don't, unless it came with the season pass for all of the DLC. But once again, like I'm not going to pay for the season pass without them announcing what all the DLC is and knowing that it's going to be worth whatever the extra $40 was or whatever.
Right.
I might not even get all of it, you know. I'm sure they're going to come out with other maps for Battle Royale. I'm sure they're going to come out with more zombie stuff. I'm sure they're going to come out with some extra multiplayer stuff. The multiplayer is also really good. They have some more game modes.
Oh, I totally forgot that exists. Do they have gun game in there? Have you seen any?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But they do have a really interesting mode that's very similar that I think you would like. It's called Heist,
Okay.
right? So it's 5-on-5, and you start out with just a pistol, and you start out with $500, right? And it's like first to 4 wins, like 4 round wins the overall match. But you start out with just a pistol and $500, and you can buy different weapons, armor, equipment, and kill streaks and different perks. For those that don't remember, kill streaks are exactly what they sound. You get a certain number of kills without dying, and you can unlock something powerful that helps your team. Perks are different things that apply to your you in game that give you an advantage somehow, whether it not be showing up on somebody else's mini map or moving faster or not taking fall damage, various things. But it's like gun game, so you throughout basically the whole point of this is instead of just killing people, there is a bag of money or stuff laying in the middle of the map, and you have to try and go get it and then return it to a random location on the map, right? Exfiltrate it, right? And you have to protect it while the other team's trying to do the same thing and kill you. And then if you win, you get more money. If you kill people on the other team, you get more money, and that helps you buy better stuff to be more successful throughout the later rounds. But it's very similar to like a Counter-Strike thing, essentially. It essentially is Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
Right? But
yeah, because each round in Counter-Strike, if you get kills, you get money bonuses. You can buy better weapons.
Exactly. It's essentially Counter-Strike, but it's very well done. You know, I mean, having not played a ton of Counter-Strike, only a little bit way back in the day, I'm sure people who like Counter-Strike would like Counter-Strike way more. But it's obviously a very good game mode, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that idea of, you know, you are trying to, instead of defuse a bomb, get something to a safe area and defend people that are trying to attack you while doing so.
Yeah.
And then over the course of a few rounds, you can buy more stuff and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a great concept for a game, and it's executed very well.
That's the kind of marriage of ideas that I think consumers really want to see in the industry, right? A whole game Counter-Strike boiled down to a good idea and used in a totally different style of first-person shooter in the same genre in a nice game mode that it's not trying to be the same thing. It's just doing something good with something else that's good in a different way. It sounds to me like this game is like 5 different games made by small companies who all tried really hard at their own game. So like the single player, they tried really hard. They tried really hard at the multiplayer. They tried really hard at the battle royale. They tried really hard at the zomboids. And then this big enough company had enough money to have 5 smaller games made, and they put it in one. They said, here you go. This is pretty fucking good.
It is. It is a fuck ton of content for $60. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Right now, you know, I talked last week about Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which, dude, that map is unbelievably large. Forza Horizon 4, which I'll be talking about soon, ton of stuff to do in that game. And it's very fun. Black Ops 4, absolute great in every aspect that I've played so far. I guess one leveled criticism so far of it that I would agree with is they're reusing a lot of old stuff. And there's nothing great about that, but at the same point, if they have old maps that aren't broke, yeah, don't bother fixing it, you know? If they work, I don't need new maps for every Call of Duty game, you know? They gave me the new content in Blackout and in Zombies.
Right.
And those 2 alone would be enough for a full-fledged $60 game to me, and then they gave us more stuff on top of it. So, yeah, I'm 100% behind the idea that the game is absolutely worth $60. If you want to pay more for it, they got ways for you to do that. Of course, I don't want to pay more than $60 for it, so I paid the $60, and I'm very pleased with my purchase. It's going to last me a long time.
It really sounds like an unbelievable execution. It has something for everybody, so everybody's getting value. It has ways to make itself money in games that, you know, where cosmetic stuff makes the money. It gives you diehard fans ways to upsell themselves on different versions and get different experiences. It just sounds like somebody did a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing terribly innovative about any particular thing that they did. Zombies is the 5th time they've done Zombies. Battle Royale has been done 2 times before, right? It's not like they're the first development studio to come up with it. The general multiplayer is, as you would expect, the same thing. It's been well done. It's one of the better first-person shooter multiplayer games on the market, and it continues to play well. And then the single-player story mission is, you know, the least emphasized of all of them, which is exactly how it's been in the past. So it's not like they've reinvented the wheel here, but they have taken some other stuff that a lot of other game developers have gone out and put something in there.
They put wheels on wheels.
Yeah. And they've executed very well on what they wanted to do. They clearly had a vision of what they wanted to do, and that they accomplished it exactly how they wanted to.
Hopefully this is a stepping stone to future innovation, right? They get one under their belt where there's no big ideas, but it's all done really well. They get the success, and then they move on to something that knocks our socks off.
Look, I'm not going to pretend that it probably won't go this way, but for me, this to me looks like this is the last Black Ops game we'll see. And if Treyarch develops another Call of Duty game, and I'm sure they will, it will be very different.
Hopefully it's from the point of view of the zombies. All right, so Thank you for that. I'm pretty excited about the game. I don't know if I have $60 to throw around and pick up an Xbone or whatever, but how about Forza? You've been talking about Forza. Now, is this... It's basically a driving sim, right?
So that's the regular Forza. This is Forza Horizon, right? Which is... Do you guys remember Burnout?
I never played it, but I'm sort of familiar with the concept. It was like a lot of car crashing and stuff.
So it's not car crashing. It's like it's still racing, right? But it's not a straight sim, right? And it's lots of objective-based stuff. So, you know, the idea behind Forza Horizon is there's this Horizon Festival and all these drivers come there and you get to race and you compete for stuff throughout the season, right? Or the year, I guess. But what Forza has going for it is it's built on the Forza engine. So the physics are really good. They just tone it down to make it not as much of a sim in Forza Horizon as it is in the regular Forza games. And they make it fun. So you can go around, you can just beeline at 120 miles an hour into a brick wall and your car doesn't blow up. It just hits the wall. So Burnout back in the day was a game where you went around and you did all these races and you could crash too. But it was mostly you go around an open world map and you can compete in different races around the map, or you could just drive around. And then as you progressed through the races, you got unlocked harder stuff and more cars and all that stuff. So Forza Horizon 4 is exactly that. You're on this big map. You go through different races, and they have like 4 different main types of races. You have like track races, which are a traditional, not quite Formula 1 because it's all like stock cars, like production cars, not Formula 1 cars or anything like that. You have dirt track racing, cross-country racing, and street racing, and I think that covered all of them.
Boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. Everybody who's ever played Need for Speed Underground remembers that song.
Nope, I never did.
All right, continue.
Anyway, the game being based on the Forza engine looks incredible.
Really?
I mean, it's unreal how good this game looks. Yeah, the graphics blow me away. Just like Assassin's Creed did, this is better, I think. Now, granted, it's doing a lot less, right? The whole point is to look pretty and have a cool car and drive around, but it looks incredible.
Why is it not just a different mode in the Forza game itself?
Probably because they had to completely rejig the physics of it to allow for you to do things like crash into brick walls at 120 miles an hour without your car just being totaled.
Okay.
That would be my guess, is that those two things are different engines almost. Like it's run on the same engine, but they have to tune it so differently that they couldn't do it. I don't know. I'm not a developer.
So you're racing. Are you battling in any way?
No.
So what's the point? What's the point of the higher damage threshold? I'm trying to understand.
To make it easier to crash into walls and whatnot,
okay.
and other cars without fucking you up too much. Okay. Right, because you're racing all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's more arcadey, you know, which is fine. That's what that's personally what I'm looking for in a racing game. Something slightly arcadey. But there are a ton of cars that you can get, and you can modify them in millions of different combinations of ways. Everywhere, everything from like a 1996 Subaru to like a 2018 McLaren are available for you. There's got to be 120 cars in there, and some really sweet ones.
So how do you unlock cars? Do you like earn money, or you just
So as you compete in different races, you earn credits. And you can spend that on buying cars or upgrading the ones that you have. And then sometimes you win a car in a race. Sometimes you win a wheel spin, where it's essentially a loot box thing, but you're not paying for it. You get it in game, and you spin the wheel, and you could get in-game currency. You could get new outfits for your character, which is dumb, but whatever. You can get new cars, and anything like that.
Are there any police chases involved?
No. There is no police. But you do race a train.
What? Wait, how?
Are we playing Top Gear right now?
Essentially, that's what this is.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's it. That is essentially what Forza Horizon 4 is. It's a British game. It takes place in England.
So
and it
Top Gear.
is essentially Top Gear if you didn't have to worry about actually crashing cars and getting hurt in a game.
Right.
And it's awesome. It is so much fun. The racing is well done where it's easy enough to pick up on, and the difficulty settings are adjustable enough where, you don't feel like you just trounce everybody immediately. The base difficulty it was a little too easy. I was winning everything without trying too hard. So I turned the difficulty up a good bit, and now I have to like really be on my game to win.
It's really hard to be frank sometimes.
So how is the handling of the vehicle? Are they highly differentiated in performance between?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, if you go out and you get like one of the cars you start with is an Audi TT, and you compare that to how an Audi A8 or R8 or a Lamborghini Gallardo handle, I mean, it's like night and day.
Well, so specifically what I'm thinking about is I've played other racing games where as the cars progressed and you upgraded them, they just moved along a spectrum of dog shit, right? It was like this car is really good at handling, and it was just it didn't feel like a different car. It just felt like it was less dog shit of the only car in the game.
Yeah, no, I felt like even the cars that you started with handled perfectly fine. Like I got to control them exactly how I would expect to control them. One of the things that goes back and forth, that is toned down to eventually 0 on the difficulty settings is when you're driving, it actually gives you a highlighted path of the path you should be following, and it'll be blue when you're going the correct speed, and it'll get red when you're going too fast.
That's
so
pretty cool.
If you're coming up on like a sharp turn and you're going 120 miles an hour in a car that doesn't turn that well, it's like you need to slow down. And as you slow down, it'll turn from red to orange to yellow to blue until you know that you're okay. Now I'm going slow enough that I can actually get this turn.
Right.
So as you get better at the game, you can turn the difficulty down, and that line goes away.
What a great way to learn.
Yeah.
We're looking at a picture right here of Forza Horizon 4. This looks tremendous.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Like, I have already been in a number of situations where I look at a picture of a car on the internet and I think it's real, and they're like, no, you got to look at the leaves. This one leaf is clearly CGI. This is all a computer. It really is bananas here. Now, there's no open world aspect to it, right? It's all on tracks.
No, there's an open world aspect to it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you drive around the whole map and you go and you do different races, and the whole idea is to eventually progress in each season. And when I say season, I mean like actual season from fall to winter to spring to summer. And then at the end of each season, there's a showcase event, one of which is racing the train. And you go around, you do different races, and you get different points towards getting to the showcase and completing that season by doing different races. And you can choose if you like to do dirt races. You can just do dirt races for the most part all the time, and I think you should be able to get on just that one particular type of race all the way to the showcase if you only liked doing that one. Personally, I think they've all been fun. But, you can also just drive around on the map and do stuff, and you'll get points as well for driving like an asshole.
How's the vehicle customization? Can you put cool designs? Is there any sort of like creator mode where you can make your own paint jobs for the cars?
All of it. Yeah, all of the above.
What?
And I mean, like Jake is showing it off here for those that, Jake has some gameplay from the game up right here. I think they're working on a Jeep Cherokee or Jeep Grand Cherokee, it looked like. But yeah, you can create custom paint jobs. They have stock paint jobs all over the place. You can put different stuff on it. It's really, and you see like right now we're watching some gameplay. They have like a little score above while he's just driving around in free roam, right? So as you do stuff, you're getting points, and that's going to go towards your showcase. And I think once he finishes this multiplier, it'll show up. It's like, okay, you get this many points towards getting to the next season. And you see all the icons on the map, right? So they have all the different icons. Those are different races you can do.
This is wild.
Yeah.
So you're on a big island?
You're in Scotland.
Whoa.
Yep. You're in Scotland.
Any other, do you travel any other continents or anything like that?
I don't know. I heard somewhere I think you could eventually go to Australia, and maybe some other places, but I've only played for probably about 5 or 6 hours, and a lot of it is just dicking around on the map like this guy is here because it's so much fun to do. And I have done a fair share of races and some online stuff as well. The online play is great. It's just races, and you can basically set it up to go on a list, like a rotating list of different races. So, you're in a lobby with 12 people and you're just racing against people in different types of races, like, dirt races, track races, and it'll bounce back and forth between them. There's different game modes they have for multiplayer. One's called like King mode or something like that, where like one car is designated, like it's basically tagged with cars.
Yeah. Is there any sort of matchmaking system? Like if you get into a lobby with somebody who's an absolute stud at this game, are you stuck getting trounced the whole time, or?
Yeah, so there is a matchmaking system, but if you are stuck against somebody that is that good, then you kind of got to leave. It's not like it'll just rotate you out, to my knowledge. It might, but I've only played the online system so far with people, for the most part, that I was in a party with. Like there were 6 of us, and I think there's 12 people per lobby, so there was only 6 other people that weren't in our party in the lobby.
So is there any advantage to like dirty racing, ramming people, or is it still just about actually racing properly?
I mean, it's tough to win when you're focused more on ramming people than racing.
So, excuse me.
Isn't that really winning though? It's just messing with everyone else.
Yeah, this all looks really, really great. You're playing with traditional controller.
Correct.
Did you ever think about switching over to pedals and a steering wheel?
Do they make them still?
Oh, yeah.
I would try it. I mean, if I could pick up something that was, not $120 to buy, I would give it a shot.
That's cool, because that's always what
people do like whole sim like rigs.
Yeah.
Like their entire computer workspace is designed for their flight sims or
Yeah,
their
I
car
know
sims.
with flight sim,
Yeah.
like people will replicate like a Boeing 747
Yeah.
cockpit on
It's
their desktop.
it's a little much, but
I agree.
I know that they make like steering wheel peripherals.
Yes.
From budget to out the wazoo.
I'll have to look into that. You know what? That might be something that I invest a little of my money into and give it a shot and report back to say how I like it.
That's what I've always thought about doing if I was going to get into this scene, because I don't particularly have a ton of love for racing, but the minutia in a racing sim, I think, could be really engaging. And if I was going to do it, I'd kind of want to do it whole hog and get myself a chair, get some pedals, get a good shifter and wheel, and see how it goes from there. That would be pretty darn cool.
Some of these, like they have some I'm looking up right now. I mean, it's a little much for me.
What are we talking?
Like one, dollar-wise, and 2, just in general. I mean, wow. Here's one. Fanatec Forza Motorsport. This is from Newegg. $4,036.
Yeah,
Whoa.
we're not talking about that. I think you can get steering wheels for under $100 or whatever.
Yeah, I'm seeing some that are like full setups.
Just get like the Wii remote one.
Yeah, there's one here from GameStop here that looks decent, but it's still $250. Here's one for $100, and I'll bet it's probably not very good.
140. I'm looking over Jake's shoulder here. It's on Amazon. I guess we could read the reviews. Anyway, this is a whole new world that I would be interested to see if it'd be fun to get into.
Yeah.
I mean, some people obviously enjoy it, but
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's a great game. Look, there's no two ways around it, and the best part of this game, available for free on Xbox Game Pass.
shut the
Whoa.
fuck up.
Which
God
we know
damn
you love.
How do you beat that? This is a great game. Like,
Yeah.
this is not a good game. This is a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know
And
how
it's
much
free.
it is on Steam?
I think it's $60.
$100 million. All right, cool.
Do you get a complimentary car with that?
Another excellent review from our resident robot. I think now is the time to take a quick break. Jake seems to be Googling the actual price of Horizon
It's
Zero
not,
Dawn.
Forza is not appearing in search results on Steam.
Forza
Okay.
Horizon?
Forza, period.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, there's gas guzzlers. You know I love my guzzlers. All right, stick with us for the final installment of this week's episode. We're going to do a quick Steam sale and then set you free. Catch you on the flip side. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to hit the Steam sale here for this week. It's going to be a quicker one. We've already taken up a lot of time, but there's some really big players on here right now. Without clicking and going into it, Cuphead is on sale for 20% off at $15.99. Now, I think, Chris, especially, you'd say that's a good price for that game?
Yeah. Full price is a good price for that game.
$16 is $20 full price for that game?
Yep.
Yeah.
$16 is still a little steep for me to start something that I
will inevitably hate yourself for playing.
Exactly. Now, if I was an established like Dark Souls fan, like if I played through all those games and that kind of difficulty was what I was looking for, I'd be really excited about it. In fact, I dreamt last night that I was finally good at Dark Souls. But that is not the case. So I think $16 is going to make me take pause. Halo Wars is on here for 50% off at $9.99, and I've heard some chatter about it. It's like the Halo version of Age of Empires, your real-time strategy game. It's a quality installment. It's one of those games I think that has sort of snuck up on me. That one, it exists, and two, it's good. Like Mad Max surprised me that it was good. There's a who's Michael Myers? What horror movie series is he from?
Halloween.
There's a great game with him in it out right now. Like
New movie
really
coming out
good.
for him too.
No way.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is Rob Zombie involved with that series?
No, not anymore. He did some really terrible movies.
With they like
of
all the
them.
sequels.
But the new one pretty much ignores everything after the first one.
Oh,
And is supposedly really good.
that's what you got to do. Can we go ahead and click on Halo Wars and check it out? Looks like it came out 2017. Yeah, April 20th, 2017. Very positive.
This
All
is the
reviews.
definitive edition, I believe, which is like a remaster. I think the first Halo Wars came out like 2012, 2010, something like that.
Oh, okay. I thought it was older than this, and I'd always heard chatter about it. This looks like a game that's been recently updated from older assets. Looks pretty good, but you can see, the behavior underneath used to be a little more clunky.
I played when it first came out. I played it, and it was. I think it's a good game.
Yeah.
It's not an incredible game. Like I'd give it like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. It's really entertaining. I'm a person that does really like real-time strategy games. If you really like the Halo IP, that brings a lot to it too. It is really good.
Here's the thing that I'm thinking when I'm looking right at this. I'm sure that this is at least a good game. It's $10, which isn't very much, but the thing that's going to make it either hit or not my $1 per hour of entertainment threshold is the learning curve. Am I going to have the time? Am I going to make the time to sit down and learn to get good enough at this game that I will play more than 2 games?
I think so, because the campaign, if I remember correctly, pretty much gives you the learning curve.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you play through the campaign, by the end of it, you should be good enough to not be a total noob.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's just a matter of how good do you really want to get.
Okay. All right. We're going into the big dog here. IO Interactive AS. I don't know what the hell that means. Publisher weekend, Hitman up to 75% off. Now, the last time I saw a publisher sale like this, it was that I took advantage of. It was for the Tomb Raider series, and I bought all of them except the new one. So this may occur again. I think a couple people in the room have played the Hitman series.
I played a few
I played
selections.
some.
We're looking here: Hitman Blood Money, Hitman Contracts, Hitman 2, Silent Assassin, all $2 and a quarter or 2 quarters. Hitman Codename 47, $2. If they are not so old that they are unplayable at this point in time, not meaning that your machine doesn't run it, but you look at it and like you've lost the ability to decipher these old games and their structure, then I don't think you can go wrong with looking for 2 hours and 15 minutes of play through each one.
I'm pretty sure I played. Hang on, I have to lie about my age. Because I'm actually 12. I believe Hitman 2 is the one I played the most, which is the one I've uploaded here. Taking a sweet time.
It came out 16 years ago. Look, I mean,
I remember having fun with it for sure.
yeah.
There's something about the character design that makes me really want him to be voiced by Pitbull. Mr. Worldwide.
Oh my God! Instead of Mr. 302,
Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. 47 or something.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, right? It's very stealth. Stealth is not mandatory, but you are rewarded for it.
Is it the question in my mind is, if you want to play the stealth route, does it behave well? Is it a good stealth game?
I remember it being so. Yes.
Okay.
Pretty fair. You have like at least in the game I played, you have like an omnipotent, like top-down mini map where you can see all the NPCs. You think that's cheating? No.
Right.
You and I believe on harder difficulties you lose that. But yeah, I remember it fondly. Can we
look at Blood Money there?
I've played a bit of Absolution. You can see it's in my Steam library. I remember Blood Money making waves. I don't remember actually playing it though.
Yeah, for $250, I think that might be the best choice if it's any good, and it gets good reviews.
So the one example I can think of a difference that we might run into is somebody who's more used to modern stealth games is the idea of sound detection and like vision cones. Back in the day, it was pretty firm that there's a triangle emanating from the front of an NPC, a non-player character's face. If you were outside that triangle, you wouldn't be seen. Now I think it's a little more dynamic than that. And, there's a lot of usage of throwing something and nowadays and having an enemy hear it and then you sneak by. I could definitely see something like that not being utilized in these games and it being hard to adjust. But if you establish good stealth fundamentals, I think any player should be able to adapt. So you played this Blood Money a little bit. This looks a lot sharper than the last one we looked at.
2006 versus 2002. So this would be like an Xbox 360 game versus an original Xbox game.
Yeah.
So it's a different generation.
Okay.
So this or Absolution, I guess. Absolution is a much, much newer game, right?
Yeah, I played a few missions of it and enjoyed it. From a limited sampling I've had, I played all of Hitman 2.
Oh my God, Professor X.
I played all of Hitman 2. I played a bit of Absolution and maybe a bit of Blood Money. Basically like the middle-ish series, but there are many more games beside those. There's a very new one. And they maintain a really consistent sense of style and if you've played the earlier ones, you will adapt quickly enough to the new ones. There's a lot of similarities with what I recall, a decent bit of change to make it interesting.
Has there ever been a bad installment of the Hitman series?
Not that I'm aware of.
Maybe.
The movie?
What's that?
The movie?
The movie doesn't count because it's not Pitbull.
I definitely for a second thought that it said Hitman Abortion, not Absolution.
Wait.
Because it was like a little grayed out.
What Hitman are they up to? How's Hitman 2 coming out?
Hitman 2 came out years ago.
Yeah, it says it's coming soon. Maybe they're porting it to Steam or something. It's all the way at the bottom. Hitman 2 coming soon.
It might be a sequel to
for $60.
Reboot.
Oh. My brain, it's dog poop.
I don't know why they're doing Hitman 1 and 2 again.
Hitman Game of the Year edition, I guess the most recent installment from 2016, that and all the DLC for 76% off, $16. You could have every game up to this one for
less than that, probably, or about the same price.
Yeah, so you could have every game so far for like $25, $30.
And it gets mostly positive reviews. For $20, I don't know, $20.
The whole
17.
Franchise. I think I would say it's worth it. I would definitely say it's worth it.
Yeah, I know, Frank, you are not so invested in playing a whole series, but that's really what gets my juices flowing. So this might be something old Billy Boy has to pick up.
Shall we move on?
Yeah, let's quit it now that we've hit it.
Oh no, too far back.
Yeah, I noticed. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
I'm here for you, buddy. Fallout 4.
I see on here. No. I see on here yonder.
Oh, okay.
I think we've looked at this before, and we concluded that it looks pretty good, but it was too expensive. It's like pretty cute.
Yeah.
A lot of Wind Waker vibes.
It's like super cute. I think that's its appeal. And the gameplay is probably decent.
I don't think any of us were that sold on it.
No, but it wasn't. I don't think it was 45% off for $13 the last time. I think it might have still been in the 20s. I don't know. I mean, if Genevieve was like, "Oh, I want to give this a try," and the two of us played it, I might be interested in splitting the cost. But until this gets down to single digits, I'm not going to roll the dice on it. But it looks very cool and stylized. All right, Fallout 4 weekend deal, 35 to 50% off. That is not really an impressive discount.
$15 for the base game.
That's been out for 100 years though. Season pass $30. Fallout Shelter, isn't that free?
I mean, some of these older games maybe.
New Vegas for $5.
New Vegas and Fallout 3
there
$5 each. Game of the Year Fallout 3 for $12. Honestly, I still think that's worth it. But I am a diehard fan. Others might not be.
How much is the classic collection?
10.
If you're a big dork like me,
not. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. I was gonna say, do not play Brotherhood of Steel. Yeah, don't play Fallout Tactics Brotherhood of Steel. Do not play that game.
Why not?
It is terrible.
It is the redheaded stepchild of the entire series.
Oh man, that might be worth.
No.
We might have to do that now.
It's like actually just bad. It's not like funny bad. It's just like really bad.
Okay. All right.
New Vegas for $5 if you have not played it though. That might be my
that's
choice.
a no-brainer.
Yeah.
A no-brainer. Fallout 3 grates on some people because of its color palette.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not gonna, for people who are shallow-minded like that, but New Vegas will get around that right away. What else?
Okay, pause. What the fuck are we looking at? There's a game on the top of the screen for 40% off at $35.99, and I don't see the name anywhere except for that big red blob 2018. Nothing short of the best.
Yeah, they have like a review.
Pure single player racing game on the market. 95%, 9 out of 10. What the fuck am I looking at? Oh, F1 2018. Sick job. Oh, I guess that's what I'm supposed to be seeing is an F1 2018. This is a terrible little
I guess
thumbnail.
if you're a Formula One fan, you would recognize the logo.
Jesus Christ.
I'm not a Formula One fan. Yeah, we're not Formula One fans. This is for diehard Formula One fans.
Is it? Are you doing 40% off to only include your diehard market? I think you're trying to expand there. Holy shit. Well, it looks great. I mean, the people kind of look like claymation, but the cars look good.
That's the important part.
Here they are, zip-zooping around. Ooh, a little bit of vehicle vibration when you're sitting in the cockpit. Big panning shots over top of the field. These cars look real. Okay. This might be the game I saw a GIF of a car flipping over and I didn't realize it was fake until it landed. Yeah, this looks unbelievable. In the far away, like cinematic shots when they're coming down the path, these cars look like real cars. But as soon as you see people, they don't. What do you guys think?
I think the people look okay.
Yeah,
I mentioned
when
when talking about Forza Horizon 4, I'm not a big racing sim fan. I want something a little more arcadey. This probably is not for me.
Forza.
So for $36, probably not on your list.
No, not even close.
Me neither.
They are billions. We've touched on this before. This looks like it's going to be a really cool game. Sort of like a.
It's only $10, so $2. It's 25 down to 22 and a half.
It's like a Zomboid tower defense cross, almost Factorio and Age of Empires, like town development. I think, like
it's gonna have to drop to under 10 for
me to get into this new IP. It's gonna have to be in the single digits. Halloween Horror, 67% off. Surely,
click it.
This is for what the fuck?
Multiple games?
Another great thumbnail with like 4 titles. A review in the top left, Killing Floor 2 on the right, Halloween Horrors, Monster. Oh, it's Killing Floor 2, I guess, DLC or something? What the fuck is going on?
I don't know.
It's not loading.
It's clearly actually Killing Floor 2.
Yeah.
Once we have the page up and everything, but like, I don't know what they're trying to do with these goofy logos. Thumbnail, what you call it.
I don't know. Whoever got that
Someone's
intern
not
to make
thinking
these
about
logos, you need to fucking instruct that person to do better logos. All right, this looks like this art style almost looks like Arkham Asylum Batman style with like the bright neons but dark everything else.
I guess I can see that.
2016, very
I was
positive.
thinking Bioshock.
Yeah, cross that, whatever. Anybody touch the Killing Floor series? I know the name. It must be pretty good. $9.89. If there was nothing else competitive on the list that I wanted to make a move on, I would try it for that price.
Yeah, I don't think it'll stack up against every Hitman game being like $3. I think
That's it.
Is it?
That is it.
Hitman all the way. Doesn't even matter.
Yeah, Hitman for me.
Hey
as well.
man,
I would go Fallout New Vegas if you haven't played it. After that, I'd probably go Halo Wars.
Oh,
Yeah, I would think Cuphead.
See, I
but
agree
it's
with you
still too
completely,
much.
Frank, if you haven't played it.
what's that?
I would think Cuphead, but it's still a little too much for me. And then price wise, and then I actually am interested in that Killing Floor game.
All right. Oh man, there's some other things popping up on here that I've heard really good things about. Subnautica, that's supposed to be a lot of fun and sort of a semi-horror feel. There's Porsche that we is 20% off. I guess they didn't mention it.
Rim Job World.
Oh my God! Someone
Man,
named that.
There's a lot of cool. Oh, Skyrim VR, great. No, there's a ton of really good shit up here. I saw trending in Jake's friends.
Skyrim
which
job.
One of them's me.
Oh boy.
It is. Oh fuck. Wait. This War of Mine, or as I like to say it, Her War I Tried to Believe. I picked that up for $7. I've been playing the shit out of it. Also,
It's really
I got
good.
my goddamn railroad game.
Yep.
It's like Railroad World Smart Guy, not Railroad Tycoon. I got it for 50% off, $25. I'll take a chance on that. And then what did they have on there? Kingdom Come. It's supposed to be really good combat that gets old quick. I don't know. A lot of good shit up here, but like I said, my pick would be the first 10, however many Hitman games. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us again. I think this is our fourth installment of the new format with something relevant up front, and then a game review, and then we hit Steam page next week. Maybe we'll take a look at good old games, or do something quick look at.
Well, if Lisa's here, we're gonna do our game.
Oh yeah, so we're introducing a new idea where we pair up with each other, and we hit something pretty hard. We go into it, and the ladies are going to do their debut week next weekend. And I am anticipating it's going to go really well. Great brainchild of our executive producer Jake there. My project at work is finally over, so I'm catching up on all the stuff that I've wanted to do. So I'll be doing some.
We'll finally be able to play D&D.
Exactly. We'll be able to do D&D. I've made some agreements at work with some of our devs. They help me build the website. I help them get their lives in order and get fit. You know, a little bit of a bartering system. So we've got good things coming down the pike. Obviously, we talked about doing some video play soon. As always, thank you for joining us. We'd love to have you here. Please tell your friends.
Warn them about us.
Well, we have Patreon and this, that, and the other thing, and whatever. That would be nice, but really, we all get so much joy out of seeing that listens number go up because we love doing it, and we love it if you love it too. So, all right, have a great weekend, and don't forget, cock 'em, lock 'em, and rock 'em, baby.